What's up guys, this is your favorite fanfic YouTuber, the Fanfic Majesty, and welcome to another amazing video. You can follow me on Patreon for exclusive stories. 7 at chapter 151 Unreasonable Crushing. Previous chapter. Next chapter advertisement. Chapter 151 Unreasonable Crushing. Then, from behind, Doflamingo could feel a finger suddenly aimed at him. Humph. Without thinking too much, Doflamingo snorted coldly, and then a white thread like a spider web appeared directly behind him. Hado one punch. Without touching the white thread like a spider's web at all, a shock wave directly hit Dufresne's bright back. A shock wave? But my spider web is not an ordinary spider web. Even a shock wave can block it. Doflamingo couldn't help but chuckled secretly. If it was an ordinary web, it would be impossible to defend against a shock wave. Will be broken. But his ability is completely different. Not only is the web covered with haki to make the spider web strong, but also there is a defensive wall made of Ryotsu between the webs. Combining the power of Shu and the power of Devil Fruit to such a fine level, few people can do it. 12. The two complement each other, and the defense is not as simple as 1 + 1. However, Doflamingo's smile didn't hang on his face for a long time. He only heard a bang. His proud defense exploded in an instant, and then a powerful impact directly hit Doflamingo's body. It felt like being hit directly by a high-speed train. Puff! Doflamingo was directly knocked into the air by the powerful impact, hit the hull, and directly knocked out a big hole in the hull. Advertisement. A mouthful of blood gushed out directly from his mouth. Boom! The deck burst, and Doflamingo felt as if his back had been hit hard too. Young master. At this time, the rest of the Don Quixote family also reacted, and rushed to find Doflamingo. Seeing Doflamingo lying on the ground with blood dripping from the corner of his mouth, everyone felt furious for a while, but when they really wanted to do something, they were scared away when they saw the figure of the other party. Marine Admiral and Marine Chief of Staff, now recognized as the strongest in Marine, the most intimidating legendary character. Want to challenge me? Don't overestimate yourself. Murphy smiled lightly, and the terrible Reiatsu burst out like a landslide. All the Shichibukai will gather in Mariajoy for a meeting in a month's time. I'll be there too, Murphy said. It's not like they haven't seen it before, and when Doflamingo hollow, the evil Reiatsu made them feel suffocated. However, they couldn't feel anything in Murphy's Reiatsu. Just using the number 1 Hado, he has been quite merciful. And Doflamingo didn't dare to ask Murphy why he did it, because the gap in strength was too great, and he didn't have the confidence to question Murphy at all. P.S. Open black lens bracket 1 close black lens bracket. Advertisement. The same is true for top cadres including Diamante and Pika. There's no way, even if he doesn't want to forget, he can't help it. After all, he can't afford to offend the man in front of him, so he can only treat it as a dumb loss. How is it possible? The gap is so big. Feeling the terrifying pressure, Pika and the others struggled to raise their heads, but unfortunately they couldn't even raise their heads in front of Murphy's Reiatsu. There is no way to do such a small action. Slowly, Doflamingo also sat up from the ground, coughed a few times, and a lot of blood was coughed out from his mouth. Whether it is Kyōka Suigetsu or others, Aizen's strength is not due to special abilities, but because of the high-strength Reiatsu that ordinary people can't understand, directly crushing other people in a completely unreasonable way. Let me tell you straight and clear, I am a soldier first and then a salute. You put your tail between your legs and be a man. Just that huge and outrageous Reiatsu, and a touch of domineering look at the world. If only no 1 Hado can't bear it, then it's wishful thinking to get the position of Shichibukai, right? Doflamingo. Murphy looked at Doflamingo who fell on the ground in the distance and said lightly. The incomparably huge Reiatsu pressed firmly on the backs of everyone like a mountain, directly pressing all the members of the Don Quixote family to the point where they couldn't stand up. He could feel that if Murphy wanted to, with just a little more force, he could use the Reiatsu to knock him out. This 763 feeling is impossible even against Whitebeard. Not a level at all. But, even now, he feels powerless in the face of Murphy. Advertisement. What a powerful Reiatsu. I didn't expect it. Doflamingo looked at Murphy in front of him and felt a tremor in his heart. I really didn't expect that it was actually the Marine General Staff who came in person. Doflamingo forced a smile, and Doflamingo could only feel his heart beating continuously.
Doflamingo lying on the ground at this time clearly illustrates this point.
The gap is too obvious. There was a visibly flustered look on Doflamingo's face. It seems that those 5 old men still compromised with me. But that's right, after all, this is gold in the sky. Doflamingo forced a smile on his face, as if he had completely forgotten the matter of being beaten just now. When he first took office as Vice Admiral, he directly defeated the Golden Lion pirate group, and later arrested the pirate king Roger. For no particular reason, he just beat up Doflamingo. Ryotsu. To people of their era, Murphy's name was what others saw Garp in a previous era.
Ask for flowers, ask for monthly tickets, ask for comments, ask for rewards. However, even if it is the least powerful number, 1 Keto, when Ryotsu is strong enough, the power is not something that ordinary people can follow.
Cough cough. It's like comparing a ladle of water with the whole ocean. Some people's Ryotsu feels gentle, and some people's Ryotsu feels evil. Chapter 152 Knowing What to Do Previous chapter Next chapter. Advertisement Chapter 152. Of course I agreed. Otherwise you would be a corpse now. I have already told you the time of the Shichibukai meeting, and I believe you know the location better than anyone else. After all, you have lived there since childhood, Murphy said. I see, but those 5 old fellows let a big man like you come here, isn't it a bit of a big deal? Doflamingo wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, and looked at Murphy with a fearful expression. Who knows? Maybe let me show you some color, Murphy said indifferently. Of course, he knew that 5 elders wanted to investigate the secrets of the Sabodi archipelago while he was in North Blue. As for Doflamingo, it is natural that they cannot see through the game between them. It doesn't matter anymore. I will go to Marijoy in a month. From today onwards, our Don Quixote family will not be hunted by the Marine anymore. Speaking of which, I haven't been back to that place for many years. Doflamingo's eyes flashed kill meaning. He also asked to go back to Marijoy to continue working on celestial dragons, but the guys wanted him to use Hogyoku shards in exchange. Naturally, he was not happy with this request. The fragments of Hogyoku represent the power of immortality, and the difficulty of obtaining them is quite high. And not only that, Hogyoku fragments can also bring great power to people. Except for those guys who only know how to eat, drink and play, everyone goes to Hogyoku. And the last group of celestial dragons even wanted to grab his Hogyoku shard directly. Advertisement Fortunately, he fused the Hogyoku fragments early and ate devil fruit, so he has a certain ability to protect himself. Coupled with the fact that CPO people dare not do anything to him who used to be celestial dragons, he escaped from Marijoy. Boring. Throwing this sentence lightly, Murphy reminded Doflamingo. Being a Shichibukai is not for you to do whatever you want. If you still do things that are no different from pirates, then you will be rewarded again. Don't worry. I will control the speed well, Doflamingo replied with a smile. It was not easy for him to take the risk to get this position, and he would not give it away so easily. What's more, his strength is not enough to survive Murphy's pursuit. He is still very clear about this point. If possible, he would rather face the 4 emperors of New World directly than be hunted down by a monster of Murphy's level. After a simple trial just now, he has already understood that with his own strength, basically, even with all the fighting power of his own family, it is impossible to defeat Saifei 1,000 times. The huge gap in strength made him feel extremely desperate. Some people are like this, as long as you hit him once and let him know the gap, then the matter can be easily ended. As long as you know what's in your mind. After finishing speaking, Murphy left directly and walked towards his own warship. Call advertisement Seeing Murphy leave, Doflamingo heaved a long sigh of relief. That's right, suddenly, Murphy turned around again, which made everyone in the Doflamingo family, including Doflamingo himself, tremble all over. If the gold in the sky loses a Bailey, you all will die. Murphy threatened Doflamingo's people coldly. Once the amount of gold in the sky is wrong, the consequences will be quite serious. Maybe Doflamingo will not die, but the gang under him will definitely die. For the celestial dragons, heavenly gold is very important. If they don't have money, they can't buy slaves. There are countless countries that have been directly ordered to destroy because heavenly gold can't pay. It is enough to see how greedy the moths are here. We understand. Doflamingo's cadres stood on the deck and replied seriously. They also know very well what will happen if the amount of gold in the sky is wrong. If they are about to leave their identity as pirates, they can even join the Hunters Guild by cooperating with the world government. If something goes wrong suddenly at this time, then their lives will not be long. What are you waiting for, Diamante? Immediately ask someone you trust to count the amount of gold in the sky, and there should be no problem with the amount of gold in the sky. Doflamingo also said to Diamante immediately. Indeed, the amount of gold in the sky is very important. If it is not guaranteed, a greedy pirate secretly took some from somewhere. If something goes wrong, all of them will be buried with them. In this way, time passed slowly. Advertisement in about half a month. Murphy has returned to naval headquarters, but he is not in a hurry to go directly to Marijoy. After all, the Shichibukai have not gathered yet. When one is true, the candidate for Marine has been confirmed. Fighting against the redhead and treating each other as close friends, Mahawk, who is known as the world's #1 swordsman. Then there are the losers of the 2 New World challenges, needless to say, K-Lock Doll and Gecko Moria. And there is no change in the selection of the world government, the Tyrant Shang, Doflamingo, the Empress, and Haishia Jinbei. Although it is said that there are 7 people put together, no one can deny the powerful fighting power of these 7 people. Is the last candidate turned out to be that Wang Hao, guy from North Blue? Sengoku said after viewing the candidates. As Marshal Marine, he naturally knew who the other 6 people were in advance. But when he saw the last candidate, Sengoku couldn't help frowning. This guy Doflamingo's reputation is not good, it can even be said to be bad. And compared with the other pirates, the business they do is also shameful. Chapter 153. Shichibukai coming previous chapter next chapter. Advertisement Chapter 153. Shichibukai coming, but even so, Sengoku didn't say much. He also learned about the robbery of Tianshongjin some time ago, and now that Doflamingo has entered the government's list, he also guessed what happened. Speaking of which, it's almost time for those guys to arrive, Sengoku said suddenly. And Sengoku refers to the 3 people invited by Marine. The people invited by Marine naturally come to Marine first, and then go to world government for a meeting. After all, the guys who are about to revoke the reward order, there is still room for cooperation, Murphy said. But Sengoku sat down casually, and replied disdainfully. Pirates are pirates after all, and will not change just because of a bounty order. As long as they are still pirates, their bad nature will not change. Although it is said that he was selected by Marine, Sengoku is still quite unhappy. In the final analysis, he is not cooperating with pirates, and he can't understand the garbage in the sea anyway. 777 At the same time outside naval headquarters, a pirate ship is rapidly approaching this place. Advertisement The moment they saw a pirate ship approaching, the naval headquarters alarm was sounded immediately, and the outermost marine was also ready for battle. Is it coming? I don't know who is the first to arrive. Hearing the siren, Murphy also knew that Shichibukai was about to arrive. He glanced at Sengoku, who clenched his fists without leaving a trace, and couldn't help feeling a little funny. He was obviously the Marine Marshal, but he seemed so powerless. Sengoku, this is a decision of the world government, and has nothing to do with Marine's position. Seeing Sengoku's appearance, the crane beside him also said lightly. I want to use these words to comfort Sengoku. It is the world government's problem, not their Marine's problem. Forget it, let me go and meet you. I'm also quite curious about who came first. Seeing Sengoku's appearance, Suru also knew that it was impossible for him to go out to meet Shichibukai. That being the case, then only she will go. Really? Then I will accompany Ms. He to take a look. Just woke up. At this time, Kuzan took off the black blindfold on his eyes and stood up lazily. After all, the matter of Shichibukai is a big event, so it is necessary for them to come to the headquarters. Not only Kuzan, Sakazuki, Paluzolino and other admirals also need to be present. Then come along together, Kuzan. Crane didn't refuse, and let Kuzan go with him. Advertisement Although Kuzan is also a vice admiral, his status is completely different. Marine has clearly regarded Kuzan as Garp's deterrent in New World. This point, many discerning people can also see it. But it's really a headache. If I can, I still want to see those guys in Impel Down. Kuzan sighed helplessly, and a cold air that made people feel uncomfortable blew out of Kuzan's mouth. Kuzan, calm down, you're chill. Sakazuki glanced at Kuzan with a little displeasure. As a representative of the Iron Bloodhawk faction, what Sakazuki hated the most was Kuzan's lazy and unmotivated appearance. But even though Sakazuki is admiral, he couldn't accuse Kuzan too much. At most he would use the tone of a senior to slander him a little bit. Let's go. Ms. Suru. Kuzan ignored Sakazuki as always, looked at Suru with a blank expression and said, and then left the BCEG office directly. When I came to the port, I saw a coffin-like boat swaggering in on the route facing the Marines' guns. I saw a pirate walking towards the naval headquarters swaggeringly. The soldiers beside him, it's also very unpleasant. It's really a warm atmosphere. Is this how Marine welcomes guests? Soon, the ship stopped at Marine's port, and a figure jumped out of the ship. Those sharp eyes like the Eagle class make people dare not look at them. If Marine has such an attitude, then there is no need for the 7 warlords of the sea system to exist, let alone being divided into Shichibukai, which cooperates with the world government, and 7 warlords of the sea, which cooperates with the sea country, Hawkeye said very indifferently. Even when he walked to naval headquarters, he didn't show mercy to anyone at all, and he didn't worry about conflicts with Marine at naval headquarters. Dracul Mahawk. Seeing the man in front of him, both Crane and Kuzan stared at each other. This man's level is obviously not the same level as other Shichibukai. Advertisement known as the strongest swordsman in the world. But none of the guys who can be named the strongest is a simple character. Same goes for Hawkeye. A swordsman who can rival the red-haired Shanks of the 4 emperors of the New World. But any swordsman will undoubtedly think that he is the strongest person. Kuzan Vice Admiral. There is also Crane Vice Admiral, who has been admired for a long time. Although Admiral is not here, it is enough to see the sincerity of your Marine. After seeing Crane and Kuzan, Hawkeye can also feel the Marine side's sincerity. Although these two are Vice Admirals, their status is almost indistinguishable from Admirals, and their strength is not comparable to that of ordinary Vice Admirals. To have such 2 people come out to greet them, Marine is indeed showing enough sincerity. It's impossible for Marine Admiral or even Marine Admiral to come out to meet a pirate himself, right? It's also the first time I've seen this guy in person. The strongest swordsman in the world. Kuzan looked at Hawkeye in front of him, and the extremely sharp eyes gave people a very sharp feeling, as if the whole person was like a sharp sword, as dangerous as a sword. Chapter 154. Everyone arrives. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Chapter 154. Not long after, another pirate ship slowly approached here. Of course, because it was going to become 7 warlords of the sea. The opponent's flag was naturally not the pirate flag, but a painting with one side of the golden hook looks somewhat ordinary flag. But if someone who is familiar with this sea can recognize who it represents. That crocodile? I didn't expect that such a man would accept the position of 7 warlords of the sea. Hawkeye looked at the approaching ship, and Hawkeye also looked a little surprised. Soon, a man wearing a coat and biting a cigar came out from the pirate ship, stood on the port pier, looked at Hawkeye and the others, and took a deep breath. I didn't expect you to be invited by Marine. Obviously a lone man. It's because we are a lone ranger that we invited. Maybe it's reasonable to say that. At this moment, Murphy walked over without haste. Ten explained to K-Lock with a gentle face. Seeing Murphy approaching, K-Lock and Hawkeye could clearly feel a sense of oppression. It wasn't the pressure that Murphy released deliberately, but their sense of awe for the legendary man in front of them. I didn't expect that even a man like you has arrived. Hawkeye couldn't help but put his hand on Heidalia behind him, as if this was the only way to relieve some of his tension. Even with Hawkeye's current strength, he can intuitively feel how terrifying Murphy is in front of him. The same is true for Clockadar, although he is not as obvious as Hawkeye, but he is obviously ready to face the enemy every day. Don't be too nervous. After all, from today onwards, you are no longer pirates. Seeing how nervous the two were, Murphy couldn't help laughing. Advertisement. But then the topic changed. Besides, no matter how prepared you are, you can't guard against me, isn't it? Fortunately, he still needs some cards to escape, otherwise, I'm afraid he can't help but want to leave. Hey! What's going on? The admirals are showing up one after another. Seeing this situation, Moria laughed and said, "Oh, is it all here? This lineup is really scary. Hawkeye, Jolakir Mahawk, Sand Crocodile. K-Lock Doll, West Blue Hero. Gecko Moria. Looking at for the three people in front of him, Paluzolino put on a very exaggerated expression of fear. The other four people are candidates from the world government side, so naturally they will not come to the marine side. The latter three also went to sea at the same time and became the most dazzling supernova pirates of the year. 0. It's just that it didn't show on the face because it was hidden too deeply. This extremely frightening scene made Hawkeye break out in a cold sweat. The opponent's hands were already on his shoulders, but he just realized it. To be honest, Hawkeye doesn't have the confidence to use armament hockey to defend in the first place. On the side, K-Lock Doll was even more nervous. Such a unique whisper, you don't even have to look back to know who it is. Advertisement. But what I didn't expect was that the three of them got rid of their identities as pirates at the same time and became 7 warlords of the sea by such a coincidence. Ask for flowers, ask for monthly tickets, ask for evaluation, ask for charity rewards. Prepare a separate meeting place for them. Look, defense is useless at all, isn't it? Lightly clapping Hawkeye's shoulder twice, Murphy walked towards Marine with his back turned to Hawkeye. Ask for flowers. Suddenly, Hawkeye only felt a chill on his back, and then a hand was placed directly on his shoulder without him responding. P.S. Open black lens bracket 4 close black lens bracket. Obviously, due to various reasons, these three people all know each other, and they are all dissatisfied with each other. Just now when they walked to the door of the building, suddenly, a golden flash shot down from the top of the building and landed directly in front of everyone. If a sword had just been aimed at his heart from behind. If Murphy had aimed at him just now, his reaction would be slower than Hawkeye's. The 3 admirals of naval headquarters gathered together. This deterrent is not ordinary. Advertisement. I have to say that fate is indeed quite amazing. Okay. The 3 people invited by our marine side have arrived, so let's go with this first. Seeing that the last Gecko Moria has also arrived, Murphy didn't waste time either. He, Clock Doll, Hawkeye. I didn't expect it to be the two of you. When the scene was very quiet, the third person had already arrived. Anyway, these guys are all former pirates, out of inner conflict. It is impossible for Sengoku to let them enter the office where Marine often discusses, but a little waste. Indeed, they are all well-known pirates in New World. If the 3 of you do it together, even Whitebeard will probably fall into a hard fight. Immediately afterwards, at the door of the building, a man in a red suit with chest, a very coquettish man with a flower, appeared. Gecko Moria. Just now Hawkeye didn't realize that he was being approached behind him, and she was standing behind Hawkeye and could see the perspective completely, so he couldn't feel Murphy's moving track. Speaking of which, these 3 people are indeed quite destined. When the One Piece King Roger was executed in Rogue Town, the main young man stood there to support all of this. Hawkeye could feel that even if Murphy had his back turned to him, as long as he dared to attack, he would be instantly wiped out. Although Moria put on a grinning appearance on the surface, in fact she has already changed her face. Soon, Murphy brought the 3 of them to a temporary office in Marine. A wretched-looking guy in yellow-striped clothes appeared in front of several people. Chapter 155 Dismissal. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Chapter 155. Marshal Marine is the only one who can bring the 3 admirals together. Is that how he behaved when he first came up? However, Hawkeye seemed very calm. If Marine really wanted to attack them, there would be no need for such complicated means. Not counting other things, Murphy alone can easily kill the 3 of them in 3 seconds. As for the fact that he would die in a second, although it was a bit ashamed to say it, Hawkeye was still very sure, and he was sure that he would be killed instantly by Murphy when he was fully focused. So the greatest possibility for Marine to do this is to deter a few of them. Have you seen through? But yes, after all, big pirates like you are not so simple-minded. 320. Seeing Hawkeye's expression, Kizaru spread his hands helplessly. He has already told Sengoku that this deterrence is not going to work, and he still wants to stay in the Sabodi archipelago and clock in from 9 to 5. I advise you to be more honest, otherwise that guy is not so easy to mess with, especially when dealing with enemies. Advertisement. But Sakazuki didn't give up as easily as Kizaru, and threatened directly. As for the 3 admirals in naval headquarters, none of them is a simple character, and it is difficult to say who will win and who will lose against Kaido of the Beasts, especially Murphy. However, There was a look of disdain and disgust on the mouth. If such a good thing really happened to these guys, I'm afraid they couldn't help but go up to be a licking dog and start licking the world government. And soon, the latest newspaper also spread the news to the whole sea, and in an instant, the whole sea boiled over it. Not just these two guys, Clock Dar, Gecko Moria. These two guys are also powerful rookies who have already proven themselves in New World. The most beautiful woman in the world. As expected of the Pirate Empress, this appearance is indeed unmatched. Because A-level hunters represent the ability to complete A-level missions, be able to exchange for a piece of Hogyoku, and have eternal life. He. I know the horror of Marine Admiral, not to mention me. Even the 4 emperors of New World can't afford to mess with that guy. Moria replied with a smile, leaving no trace a compliment to the Marine. Hawkeye, the strongest swordsman in the world, and Tyrant Bear. These two can be said to be the leaders of the next generation of sea overlords. I didn't expect to become Shichibukai. The names of the 7 people published in the newspaper are all famous big pirates all over the world. P.S. Open black lens bracket 1 close black lens bracket. Shichibukai. Marine is really confused, it's enough to put that guy in New World. Glancing at the newspaper, Whitebeard showed a disdainful expression on his face, picked up the flagon and began to drank it down. 0.8 Shichibukai. Even if they add up, I'm afraid they can be crushed by Murphy with one hand. Advertisement. Although Murphy hadn't made a move for a long time, no one who came from that era dared to underestimate the Marine General Staff who hadn't made a move for a long time. It has to be said that this threat is quite effective. After all, even they seem a little powerless in the face of the possibility of being hunted down by Murphy. After all, it's just envy and jealousy. Although these guys look down on Shichibukai, after all, becoming Shichibukai is equivalent to betraying pirates and becoming lackeys of Marine and world government. Several other people are also silent, they don't want to be sent to impel down. In this way, the matter of 7 warlords of the sea was solved so simply. And the person who didn't come is naturally the Pirate Empress. For the place Marijoy, she will naturally not be there. He doesn't want to get involved with the other 2 people. If one of them suddenly goes mad and provokes, his position will be very awkward, so it is the best choice to separate the relationship immediately. Although he is very friendly to Marine and his friends, and looks like a gentle and modest gentleman, Murphy has always been merciless when facing pirates. The person he was talking about naturally meant Murphy. You must know that A-level hunters are the ultimate goal pursued by all hunters in the Hunter Guild. But the world government doesn't matter, after all, this is something that has been agreed before. Advertisement, let alone Kaido of the Beasts. I am afraid that even Whitebeard can easily crush it. For Shichibukai, there are naturally praises and criticisms. It's better for you 2 to be quiet, I don't want to mess around with you and throw my life here. Lockdoll glanced at the 2 people next to him, and then walked directly into the building. Of course, what he said was also true. Challenging the Kaido of the Beasts escaped with the result of annihilation of the whole army on his side. And these 7 people will have their reward orders revoked, and then they will directly join the Hunter Guild as A-level hunters. Ask for flowers, ask for monthly tickets, ask for comments, ask for rewards. Although Hawkeye already knew that this was Marine's blow to them, but when they heard Sakazuki talk about Murphy, they still couldn't help being cautious. All but one, Marijoy, were there in person. And Hawkeye didn't say much, he put down the hideaway that he was holding tightly in his hand, and followed him directly into it. Go inside and wait obediently, Marshal Sengoku will come right away. Of course, if you don't want to wait obediently, I can send you to impel down to wait. Murphy smiled and said it was very scary if. Doflamingo. Is that the dark businessman from North Blue? I never thought that this guy who dared not even set foot on the Grand Line is worthy of being a Shichibukai. Even the bastard of the Hunter Guild Golden Lion is probably not his opponent. Chapter 156. 4 Emperors Previous Chapter Next Chapter. Advertisement. Chapter 156. 4 Emperors. Thinking of the Golden Lion, Whitebeard couldn't help frowning, and put a hand on his chest. That bastard. Just thinking about it, the wound that guy gave Lousy is still aching. Whitebeard's face turned a little ugly. To be honest, he really has no intention of competing for the title of the so-called strongest in the world, but after a serious fight with him, there is only one person who can completely defeat him. That is the leader of the Hunters Guild, Golden Lion. But I have to say that it is indeed a big force, and it has all entered the troublesome organization of the Hunters Guild. Margao picked up the newspaper from the ground and said with a serious expression. Now he has become the first team captain of the Whitebeard Pirates, and for the Hunter Guild, the entire Whitebeard Pirates hate it. After all, the former captain of the Whitebeard Pirates was killed by the Hunters Guild. Advertisement in recent years, there is no shortage of things about the Whitebeard Pirates in the 12 missions of the Hunters Guild. It's ready. Just wait for the news from Joker. I hope that guy won't lie to us. Beside Kaido, a big fat man with a cigar in his mouth pouted. Has that Joker got Shichibukai's position? When can we start the deal? How is the preparation going? Kaido shouted loudly. Immortality, immortality, and greater strength. That guy's strength, if you really get the Hogyoku fragments, I'm afraid even you can only be defeated by him. Beckman looked at the news and joked to the redhead. Hawkeye, who is alone, has almost never been hunted down by any Marine. How much energy is needed to hunt down a monster with a fighting power comparable to Marine Admiral? Moreover, Hawkeye has always been alone, and has hardly caused any large-scale massacres, robberies, etc. It is undoubtedly a thankless task to capture Hawkeye.
So Hawkeye joined 7 warlords of the sea, obviously not to cancel the bounty. Although Shichibukai is controlled by Marine and the government to monitor the Hunter Guild's props, but for their pirates, Marine and the government are also enemies. Did Shichibukai be established so quickly? It's a troublesome thing for these guys to join the Hunters Guild. Big Mom, who was hiding in Wangwo and had a baby, also had a headache when he heard the news. But in terms of strength, Hawkeye's strength still makes him very admired. Maybe. Who knows what will happen in the future? The redhead smiled, but didn't say much. It can even be said that in the entire New World, any pirate group that is slightly larger will have hatred against the Hunter Guild. Advertisement. This is better for everyone. The strength of the Hunter Guild has once again increased. However, those who can own Hogyoku fragments, except for the celestial dragons in the sea, are all A-level hunters of the Hunter Guild. It's just that they can't register as hunters with the Hunters Guild, so naturally they don't count as collapse fragments. However, Marine 530 looks down on these guys. To what extent Shichibukai listens to the world government is an unknown question. Ask for flowers, ask for monthly tickets, ask for comments, ask for rewards. Not to mention Hawkeye, even the 4 emperors of New World have been coveting this for a long time. However, the Hunter Guild is a very good prop for them, because they only need to pay some Baileys, and they can kill anyone they want to kill. Among other things, Whitebeard's bounty has already exceeded 5 billion Baileys. If the Hunters Guild wants to do it, it will cost at least 15 billion Baileys, right? If it wasn't for that, apparently the only thing Hawkeye would be worth putting down would be pieces of Hogyoku left. Being able to become A-level hunters has already proved their extraordinary strength, coupled with the blessing of Hogyoku fragments. Unless the 4 emperors do it themselves, it is almost impossible to succeed. Their red hair pirates can become, not only the strength factor, but also a certain amount of luck. Advertisement. Has Hawkeye even joined the Hunters Guild? Sure enough, the power of immortality is still very fascinating. Seeing this news, the red-haired also smiled. After all, the current Doflamingo is not the Doflamingo of the past. It has the upgrade of Hogyoku fragments. Even if it is head-to-head with Kaido, Doflamingo also has this qualification. P.S. Open black lens bracket 2 close black lens bracket. Even in the hands of 4 emperors, it is not easy to play a daily 15 billion Pele. Indeed, although Shichibukai apparently belonged to the Hunters Guild, they had to obey the orders of the world government. But even if Joker really lied to them, it's not easy for Kaido to do it. Whether Shichibukai will listen to the world government is also a problem. Maybe putting these guys in is not to strengthen the strength, but to cause confusion to the Marine world government and even the Hunters Guild. Category on the side analyzed. Moreover, even if there is this money, the pirates have a private agreement that they will not reward the captain of a certain pirate ship through the Hunter Guild. And the only way is to kill those who already have the Hogyoku fragments, and then snatch the Hogyoku fragments from those people's bodies. And you must know that the golden capital attached to the Hunter Guild now controls 70% of the world's Bailey flow, and a large part of the money is now gathered in the golden capital, and it stretches out like a spider. A countless number of arms involved in various industries. The appearance of Shichibukai undoubtedly enhanced the strength of the marine side. Even the Hunter Guild would dare to take Whitebeard's head, provided the other party could afford the money. Chapter 157 Ace Goes to Sea. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Chapter 157 Ace Goes to Sea. Time flies. In a blink of an eye, time passed quickly. Time has entered Sea Circle Calendar 1519. This year was the year before Luffy went to sea. Although the Hunter Guild has joined the Shichibukai over the years, Yiping has not undergone any substantial changes. Shichibukai almost all have their own plans, so except for some more troublesome tasks, Shichibukai didn't accept many tasks, and just relied on their own names and legal identities to do their own things. Of course, it's worth mentioning that Hawkeye is different from everyone else. This guy is aiming for the Hogyoku fragment in the first place. So almost all the time is spent in the Hunters Guild. In the end, Hawkeye also grabbed 3 A-level missions of the Hunter Guild, and successfully completed them, obtaining 3 Hogyoku fragments. As for the others, although the target also has Hogyoku fragments, they are all busy with other things and have no chance to get the A-level mission. Of course, it's worth mentioning that it wasn't just Hawkeye who gained. In fact, the one who gained the most was the Red Earl Rider. Advertisement. Because Rider gathered a total of 40 pieces of Hogyoku, after the Golden Lion in the Hunters Guild, he is the second to have a complete piece of Hogyoku. As for the current strength of Rider, I am afraid that only he knows. But Bullet is slightly worse. After all, the Red Earl received an S-level mission from Murphy, so he can naturally obtain Hogyoku fragments faster. So now Bullet only has about 20 Hogyoku fragments in his hand, and there is still a full half of the distance from the complete 1 Hogyoku. The only change is probably that the Hunter Guild is developing too fast, causing more and more panic in the marine and world governments. With the continuous expansion of the Hunter Guild, the actions of the world government against the Hunter Guild have become more and more obvious. However, the pressure from the World Economic News Agency and the gold capital, which has made the world government constrained, is too great. One controls the world's fishing boats, while the other controls more than 70% of the cash flow. In addition, Celestial Dragons has been relying on the Hunters Guild to continuously obtain Hogyoku fragments from here, so even if the world government wants to deal with the Hunter Guild has also been unable to draw out its strength, and it can even be said that it dare not challenge the Hunter Guild head-on. And even if you ignore everything and want to use your strength to force the Hunter Guild directly, the leader of the Hunter Guild, a monster-level leader with unfathomable strength, should not be underestimated. If these monsters are angered, it will be very difficult for the world government. So now that the Hunter Guild is becoming more and more powerful, it is becoming more and more difficult for the world government to make up their minds to go to war with it. After all, up to now, the Hunter Guild has not shown any ambitions. Not only the world government, but the marine side is also quite worried about this. Advertisement. Will this peacefully developing monster really be peaceful forever? Of course, it wasn't a big deal for Murphy. After all, the Hunters Guild itself was created by Murphy himself. Although it is said that Golden Lion, as the chairman, has evil intentions, Murphy has never cared whether Golden Lion is loyal or not. The bounty is 1.25 billion Baileys. I didn't expect it to be so much better than before. Looking at the reward order of Fire Fist Ace in front of him, Murphy said with admiration. If he remembered correctly, the original Fire Fist Ace was only 550 million Baileys, but in this life, under his deliberate control, Ace's strength is naturally much stronger than in the original book. Ryujin Jaka, One Piece Roger's Sword Spirit, early access to Devil Fruit, a complete Hogyoku. With so many resources, it would be ridiculous if Ace was still the same as before. General Staff, are you looking at this pirate? This guy is quite amazing. He has a bounty of 1.2 billion Baileys in just 1 year of going to sea. I'm afraid it won't be long before this guy can have the 4 emperors. The reward for the level is up. The orderly on the side saw Murphy looking at Ace's reward order, and said very enthusiastically. It also benefits from Murphy's gentle personality, and he doesn't have any airs of admiral, so the soldiers in the headquarters often talk to him very casually, and the duty officers beside him are even more happy. In this way, as for C, he is indeed the brightest new star this year. Among other things, the terrifying bounty of 1.2 billion is enough to explain everything. Advertisement. This bounty must be known that even the strongest of the 4 emperors may not have reached it. For example, Katakuri only has 1,057,000,000 Baileys, and at this time, Ace actually has a reward of 1.2 billion as a rookie. One can imagine how terrifying his strength is. Quote. It's really amazing. I guess it will soon grow to the level of the former One Piece Roger. Murphy commented lightly, not at all guessing that the person next to him would be dumbfounded when he heard this. One Piece Roger. Murphy's evaluation of Ace turned out to be a monster that can rival Roger of One Piece. Although it is an exaggeration to say that the bounty in the first year is 1.2 billion, but it is not enough to make such an evaluation. Obviously, it is difficult for ordinary soldiers like them to measure the true strength of those monsters. In fact, when Ace showed his own strength after going to sea, Marine had already paid attention. That can be said to be a very unusual talent and strength. Notify the marshal that I'm leaving the headquarters recently, and I'm going to have a look at the Fire Fist Ace. Saying this, Murphy stood up and was about to leave. Ah, I see, General Staff. Hearing Murphy's words, the adjutant was taken aback for a moment, and then immediately replied. Chapter 158 Jinbei appears. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Chapter 158 Jinbei appears. Bang bang bang. Boom. Boom. Fire. Fire me. We must stop that guy from approaching. New World is the port of a certain sea area belonging to Whitebeard. At this time, there was a black mass of people on the outermost periphery of the port, directing the firing of guns. On the other side of the port, a ship with a skeleton flag is constantly approaching in this direction. Black cannonballs and small bullets were fired continuously, and all the targets were aimed at the ship. He's still as boring as ever. How could things like guns have any effect on us? On the bow of the pirate ship, a man who looked very young was squatting on the bow, with one hand pressed. Wearing a hat makes it impossible to see the face clearly. Suddenly, a bullet was aimed at the man's forehead very precisely, and directly penetrated the man's head. However, neither the man nor the crew below who saw this scene looked indifferent, as if nothing major had happened. Advertisement. Immediately afterwards, flames suddenly ignited at the wound pierced by bullets, and 437's wound hidden under the flames could be faintly seen as if it was healing. After the flame disappeared, the wound also disappeared. Let's get rid of you all in one go. Ace raised his head slightly, and then his whole body started to burn, turning into a pool of orange-red flames and flying straight into the air. Everyone lower your head quickly. Seeing Ace, the Spades pirates didn't think too much, and immediately shouted at the companions next to them. Almost at the same time, everyone on the ship of the Spades pirates lowered their heads, and then a loud voice came from the sky. Fire Fist. Boom. Accompanied by a loud bang, flames erupted directly from Ace's fist, instantly detonating all the shells and bullets in the air, and a large number of blasting sounds resounded in the air, as if the ammunition magazine had been detonated. Moreover, the power of Ace's fireball flew down without any reduction, and the target was directly aimed at the people on the port and the weapons and ammunition. This time, the number of ammunition detonated was more than 10 times BCDF more than just now. With the port as the center, the entire port was blown to pieces in an instant. Stones and mud splashed in all directions, and strong winds blew up, blinding the eyes of those around. It's still as powerful as ever. Seeing Ace's attack, the Spade pirates couldn't help swallowing. Even though it was not the first time they had seen it, this terrifying power still horrified them. Boring. Is this the level of people in the Whitebeard pirates? Could it be that you are able to occupy these territories all because of your reputation? At some point, Ace landed on the shore. Standing in the flames, Ace looked at the surrounding pirates with disdain. Advertisement. In his opinion, these pirates are too weak. It can even be said that they are unimaginably weak. It's hard to believe that this is a pirate living in New World. Of course, part of the reason is because Ace is really too strong. After all, he has already offered a reward of 1.2 billion. There are very few people in the entire New World who can have more than 1.2 billion rewards. It can even be said to be counted on the fingers. Moreover, it must be known that Ace has just been out to sea for a year and there is such a bounty. His current strength is indeed enough to challenge the monsters of the 4 emperors level. Even challenge Whitebeard directly. Bastard. Is it this guy again? Fire Fist Ace of the Spades Pirates, this guy has attacked our Whitebeard pirates countless times. Saw Ace ashore. The faces of the pirates present all changed. Recently, Ace did not simply attack the members of the Whitebeard pirates once or twice, but many times. Obviously, this super rookie is aiming to challenge Whitebeard. Facing Ace, the people under Whitebeard could only feel aggrieved endlessly. How can New World dare to provoke the lunatics of the Whitebeard pirates? You must know that Whitebeard is an extremely defensive person, and this person has become the overlord in the last era. Almost no one dares to challenge Whitebeard's status. Advertisement. Even the other 3-4 emperors are the same. Therefore, it is very safe to join Whitebeard's banner. Many weak pirate groups are attached to Whitebeard and can find a place in New World. But I met Ace, a crazy guy, and this guy is extremely powerful. Except for Whitebeard, I am afraid that few people can beat Ace. Forget it, you guys are useless, go and tell Whitebeard that I'm here to declare war on him. Looking at the rest of the pirates, Ace also had no interest. A group of scattered remnants and defeated generals, whose strength is still so weak, made him unable to arouse any interest at all. Boy, it's too early for you to challenge Dad. But at this moment, a voice suddenly came from not far away. I saw a whale shark man with storm-like eyebrows and sideburns, a short thick black beard on his chin, a lightning-like scar on the corner of his left eye, a fat figure, and 2 big teeth in his lower jaw appeared in front of Ace. Shichibukai, Hexia Jinbei. I didn't expect to meet Shichibukai in this kind of place. After seeing the person coming, Ace was also a little surprised. He didn't expect to meet such a guy in this kind of place. Could it be that someone bought my head from the Hunters Guild? Even the A-level hunters from the Hunters Guild have appeared. Ace looked at Jinbei and asked curiously. If it was an ordinary pirate, if they saw the bounty hunters from the Hunter Guild coming to their door, they would have been terrified. After all, the Hunter Guild's mission completion rate so far has been 100%. Chapter 159 Fighting Shichibukai. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Chapter 159 Fighting Shichibukai. No, I'm not here because of the Hunters Guild, but because I've been favored by my father, so I can't just watch you mess around here. Jinbei said in a deep voice. Oh, it's Whitebeard again. If that's the case, then I'm not going to be polite. After hearing Jinbei's words, Ace's eyes also changed. Although the opponent is Shichibukai, Ace still doesn't show any fear. If you dare not even fight Shichibukai, how can you talk about challenging Whitebeard, the strongest among the 4 emperors? How can you talk about surpassing that man? Since Murphy came to tell him about his life experience and the cause of his own mother's death more than 10 years ago, Ace has regarded surpassing Roger as his goal, and he wants to bury this era created by One Piece Roger with his own hands. Can we just fight first? Seeing Ace's expression, Jinbei understood that this battle was inevitable. The right foot slowly turned into a circle and took half a step forward. One fist was tightened and placed on the waist, and the other palm was palm-shaped outward, posing an obvious posture of Murloc Karate. Murloc Karate. I don't know what is the difference between Shichibukai's Murloc Karate and other Murlocs. At this moment, Ace's body began to burst into flames, and a line of flames wrapped around his body. Exudes amazing heat. It seems that the surrounding space has instantly increased by dozens of degrees, the temperature. In just a dozen seconds, with Ace at the center, the ground under his feet began to dry out and even start to burn. A vague Reiatsu emanated from Ace's body. This is Reiatsu. How is that possible? Why does this guy have pieces of Hogyoku? Feeling this unique sense of oppression, Jinbei's eyes widened. Advertisement. As a member of the Hunter Guild, Jinbei naturally felt Reiatsu from other people. So when Ace released the flame, he felt the power of Reiatsu. In the flame package, Ace said with some doubts, "Is this Reiatsu again? That guy mentioned it when I went to visit the redhead before." At this time, Ace didn't realize that there was a whole Hogyoku in his body. Feeling this terrible heat, the side around me couldn't help but began to sweat. Aren't pirates just grabbing whatever they want? Since he wants to know the answer, he can just beat Jinbei and ask what happened. A series of explosions sounded, flames blazed, and countless bullets rushed towards Jinbei frantically. Ask for flowers. There are 2 full Hogyoku on a person's body, even the golden lion does not have this treatment. Seeing that Jinbei was able to catch his flame, Ace also became interested. However, the scorching heat in the air was still quite terrifying. Musket. Advertisement. And the side beside him was already prepared. With a roar from his mouth, he punched out directly. Tang Kao's Jung Fist. Bang 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 bang. Try this trick. Fire Fist. Ace shouted fiercely, and the terrifying flames erupted directly. Before meeting Jinbei, only Garp could catch the power of his devil fruit. As for the red hair, since no conflict broke out at that time, Ace was not able to fight the red hair either. Moreover, the recognized method of obtaining it is only here at the Hunters Guild. It looked like an ordinary right fist that any ordinary person could throw, but in Jinbei's hands, an unbelievably terrifying power erupted. The fist blasted into the air, and a terrifying shock wave formed directly against the musket. The bullet hit it. Sorry. I also have reasons why I can't lose. Facing the flames of Ace, although Jinbei felt a lot of pressure, he still didn't intend to back down. Ace didn't hesitate, and immediately used his ability. The fingers of both hands were like Garp Lin, crazily emitting bullets formed of flames. Now that he has finally met someone who can fight him a little bit, Ace is also a little excited. Don't you know? It's really strange. Seeing Ace's blank expression, Jinbei said a little strangely. Just like a wall, it blocks all the bullets. Ask for flowers, ask for monthly tickets, ask for evaluations, and ask for Sichuan rewards. Advertisement. It's just that the Hogyoku in Ace's body is still in the process of sleeping at this time, and it's just slowly improving his strength. Immediately afterwards, around Jinbei, a sea current was attracted to Jinbei's side, resisting the scorching heat for him. The temperature of Ace's flame made him feel like Sakazuki's lava. Even if his armament hockey caught Ace's attack head-on, he would probably be burned. The earth and those guns that were directly heated and melted by Ace's flames without reason and heated to melt, turning into a pool of dark red molten iron is the best proof. It's kind of weird that a guy who doesn't even know the Hogyoku shards owns the Hogyoku shards. What a terrible temperature. I'm afraid it can be compared with Sakazuki. No wonder there is such a high reward order just after going to sea. Because of Hogyoku, Ace's strength has been constantly rising, so he hasn't met an opponent who can fight him for a long time. The fragments of Hogyoku can be said to be the ultimate treasure that the whole sea is rushing to, even more precious than the rarest devil fruit ability. Since that's the case, then I'll ask you what's going on after I beat you. Ace didn't think much about it. Moreover, on the Zanpakuto that has not been pulled out at his waist, there is also a complete Hogyoku. Chapter 160. The sea flows over the shoulder. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Chapter 160. Water flow breaks. From the nearby sea, a stream of water directly converged into Jinbei's hands, and rushed directly towards the fire fist. However, just for a moment, the violent sea current was directly evaporated the moment it touched the flame. The huge fire fist charged directly at Jinbei without any reduction in its power. What? Jinbei's eyes widened when he saw that his water flow was broken in an instant, with a look of disbelief on his face. Seeing that the huge fire fist had struck, Jinbei had no choice but to jump up from the air directly. Plumbed skin. Immediately afterwards, he directly covered his arms with armament hockey to resist the huge fire punch coming from the front. Boom 1. The extremely violent 907 flames instantly engulfed Jinbei's whole body, and the extremely hot air proved that Ace's punch did not release water at all. Every inch of land that the flames swept through was completely burned dry, as if everything in this world was completely scorched. Even though it was so far away from the port, the crew of the Spade's pirates could feel the irresistible heat. This is also the reason why they dare not go ashore. With such a strong captain, they can't even bear the aftermath of Ace's attack. Once they get close, they will drag Ace back. Advertisement. Especially, the current Ace hasn't even drawn his sword yet. Once the knife in Ace's waist is drawn out, they may have to retreat 2 kilometers one after another. But even so, the temperature is already quite terrifying. In less than 5 minutes after landing and fighting, all the plants around Ace have been reduced to ashes, and even the ground under their feet can't bear the terrible flames. It started to burn and turned into magma all over the place. What a terrible temperature. It actually directly burned the old man's armament hockey. Seeing the burn on his arm, Jinbei looked a little surprised. Although this burn is not very serious, but being able to directly break through his armed attack, it is obvious that Ace's level of strength is already at the same level as his, or even stronger. Moreover, the ground under his feet was scorched into lava, and the development of Ace's devil fruit ability is probably close to the level of Marine Admiral Sakazuki. Although there may still be some gaps, but if it is placed in Marine, it is definitely the strength of Admiral's backup. This kind of strength is indeed not worthy of such a high bounty. Jinbei could feel the terrible oppression coming from Murphy. Flame ring. Before Jinbei had a chance to catch his breath, he suddenly felt the ground under his feet start to heat up. Pillar of fire. Boom. Only a loud noise was heard, and in the next second, terrifying hot flames spewed out directly from the ground, and a terrifying explosion swept across the entire port in an instant. The fragile ground couldn't resist the gushing flames at all, and it instantly became torn apart. Advertisement. And Jinbei, who was at the center of the flame ring, directly gathered all of them to use armament hockey to resist, but it was still useless, and was directly blown away by the terrifying fire pillar. Almost his whole body was burned by the terrible flames, and Jinbei, who was blasted out by the shock wave of the explosion, spun several times in the sky like a kite with a broken string, and fell directly into the sea with a plop, causing a lot of whitewater splashes. Even covering armament hockey all over his body still has no effect. The scorching heat of the Ace flame could directly scald Jinbei's armament hockey. But even so, Ace didn't give up. He understood that it is not so easy for a character of Shichibukai's level to die. Immediately afterwards, a green flame suddenly lit up in Ace's hand. Firefly Fire Dharma. The green fireflies are shining, pouring into the sea continuously. Immediately afterwards, the powerful firefly began to explode directly on the sea surface. Bang! Bang! Such noises kept ringing, and countless water columns exploded in the sea, some of which were even as high as 10 meters or more. But at this moment, the sea surface suddenly began to twist. Is it really not that easy to solve? Shichibukai. Seeing the flow of sea water below, Ace said slowly. In the next second, Jinbei, who had fallen into the sea, jumped up, as if he was holding a wave of sea current in his hand, and made a posture as if he was throwing it over his shoulder. With a sudden force, he directly threw the sea current behind him. Go out. Advertisement. Sea current over shoulder. The huge ocean current was like a long dragon, biting down directly towards Ace, and the tens of meters of waves overwhelmingly covered the sky, and that powerful force seemed to be able to wash away everything. Captain. Seeing this overwhelming sea current, even the crew members who are very confident in Ace became nervous, and their faces turned pale with fright. No way. Sea water is the absolute nemesis of demon fruit power. Once hit by this violent wave, Ace will definitely lose instantly. Sorry. Although I don't know why other demon fruit powers are afraid of seawater and sea stone, but I am not subject to such restrictions. Seeing the waves thrown by Jinbei, Ace slightly raised the corners of his mouth. He has also heard that demon fruit power is afraid of seawater, but he has tested it himself, and he is not afraid of the sea at all. The so-called sea is the nemesis of demon fruit power, which has no effect on him at all. As for why, Ace doesn't know either. Before that, no opponent could force him to contact the sea at 5.4. However, the impact of this sea current is also a bit troublesome. I don't want to directly resist. While speaking, Ace directly stretched out an arm to face the flames that were about to rush up. Mirror flame. A mass of flames burst from Ace's arm, hitting the current thrown by Jinbei directly. Chapter 161 Shikai Ryujin Jaka. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Chapter 161 Shikai Ryujin Jaka. The violent sea current collided with the scorching flames continuously, and in less than 10 seconds, the sky was filled with white steam that filled the entire field of vision. My ocean waves were actually vaporized with flames. What a terrible temperature. Seeing his own ocean currents being evaporated, Jinbei also involuntarily swallowed his saliva. As expected of Shichibukai. If that's the case, then I can try to use my true strength. Looking at Jinbei in the sea, Ace suddenly put his hand on his waist, and grabbed a very ordinary looking knife. But this time it's not as simple as before, and to be honest, I'm not sure if you can survive my knife. Is he actually a swordsman? But, he doesn't feel like a great swordsman. Would he be stronger if he used the devil fruit ability? Jinbei looked a little strange at the scene in front of him. He has seen quite a few great swordsmen, and he is still very sensitive to the aura of the swordsman and the aura of the great swordsman. Obviously, Ace at this time is far from reaching the level of a great swordsman. And the knife in his hand does not seem to be a famous knife that has been recorded. But, his intuition told him that there was an extremely dangerous feeling on this seemingly ordinary blade. This also made Jinbei let go of the contempt in his heart, and looked at Ace very carefully. Advertisement. For intuition, Jinbei has always believed in it. In the years of being a pirate, his sharp intuition has saved him countless times. Be careful not to be roasted directly into dried fish. Ace reminded, pulling out Ryujin Jaka from his waist, and said softly, "Everything is ashes, Ryujin Jaka." Boom. I saw a golden flame erupting directly from the sword in Ace's hand. With the start of Shikai, the Ryujin Jaka in Ace's hand also completely turned into a form of flame entanglement, and on the position of the hilt, a faint Hogyoku that can be seen is inlaid on it, providing a steady stream of Reiatsu for this hand. The extremely hot temperature spread out instantly, and the golden flame carried terrible heat, centering on Ace, sweeping madly in all directions. This. Although I just understood that the temperature of Ace's flame is terrible, but at this moment after Ace released the Ryujin Jaka in his hand, the temperature directly crossed a large level. Jinbei's complexion changed, and he chose to dive into the deeper sea immediately without hesitation. And the Spades pirates next to them also fled away immediately when they saw this scene. How is it possible that after entering the sea so much, it is still so hot? Sensing the gradual warming of the sea water, Jinbei didn't have time to think about it, and dived directly to the bottom. It wasn't until after diving more than 10 meters that the temperature of the sea water gradually became acceptable. Before you even make a move, just releasing the knife in your hand already has such power. This is the power of Ryujin Jaka. Although it is said that Murphy imitated it according to his memory, after all, with the blessing of Hogyoku, the power of this knife is probably half of the original Ryujin Jaka. But even if it is only half the standard, the temperature in Ryujin Jaka is already as high as 3000 degrees. Advertisement. And what about Sakazuki's lava? It's only 1300 degrees at most, and it's not on the same level at all. Of course, if Ryujin Jaka is not used, the current strength of Ace is probably far behind Sakazuki. It's a terrible temperature. It's difficult for a guy with insufficient strength to get close to this guy. Looking at Ace in front of him, Jinbei's expression was particularly ugly. This kind of temperature, to put it bluntly, means death if touched. If there is no long-range attack method, or Logia's devil fruit ability, I am afraid that few people in this world can get close to Ace. Moreover, even if he could get close to this temperature, once he was attacked by that Ryujin Jaka, he would probably evaporate in an instant. With the Ryujin Jaka in Ace's hand slowly waving, the entire land has completely turned into a large area of magma, and under the high temperature of 3000 degrees, the land has been completely melted. The entire island was changed forever in an instant. You must know that Sakazuki and Kuzan fought for 10 days and 10 nights to completely change the island into an ice and fire island. City Ace just liberated Ryujin Jaka and did it easily. This power has completely surpassed Marine Admiral. I can only try it first. Although I don't hold out too much hope. Looking at the extremely fiery red color on the opposite side, Jinbei took a deep breath. Gunbo Kunyu. Countless jets of water flew towards Ace under Jinbei's control. However, before it was within 500 meters of Ace, it was instantly evaporated by the 3000-degree high temperature emitted by Ryujin Jaka. Advertisement. Is it still not possible? After seeing this scene, Jinbei also felt a little helpless. His long-distance attack has no way to break through to Ace's side, let alone cause damage to Ace. It is impossible to directly use armament hockey to fight against this temperature. I am afraid that only armament hockey of the 4 Emperors level can barely fight. But at this moment, sudden boom, a powerful shock came directly from afar, shattering the atmosphere and cleaving a long path directly in Ryujin Jaka's flames. Destroyingly aimed directly at Ace in the flames, blasting Ace away. But the next moment, After the power of the vibration dissipated, Ace's body condensed into a flame again and recovered. What? Splitting the captain's flame. How could anyone do such a thing? Chapter 162. The Arrival of Whitebeard. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Chapter 162. The Arrival of Whitebeard. Seeing that Ace's flame was split open, everyone on the Spade Pirates broke out in cold sweat. You must know that there are not many people who can break through the flames of Ace in the normal state, but now the state of drawing the sword is even more invincible. The rumored super rookie actually wants to visit Lousy, it's really daring. An incomparably loud voice suddenly came out, and soon, a gigantic, whale-like ship slowly broke through the sea and approached the island. And the person who spoke was the man standing there on the bow, Whitebeard. The 4 emperors of the New World. Whitebeard, the overlord of this sea, has ruled the sea since the last age. As this Whitebeard, what a strong deterrent. Far away on the other side, seeing the Whitebeard pirates approaching constantly, the Spades pirates felt a great sense of oppression. It is not a level of existence at all. Just standing there makes people lose the will to fight, even if the Whitebeard pirates don't look at them, they don't have the courage to shoot either. Whitebeard. It used to exist side by side with that man. Seeing Whitebeard standing at the bow, Ace's pupils shrank, and he clenched his fist tightly. He brought people to the New World just to defeat Whitebeard, and now Whitebeard is standing in front of him. How can Ace not be excited? Just let me see it. Fire fist. Advertisement. Boom. Under the control of Ace, a large number of hot flames directly bombarded the Whitebeard pirates. With the blessing of Ryujin Jaka's power, the temperature of Ace's own devil fruit flame has also risen a lot, at least it has a temperature comparable to Sakazuki's lava. With flames of this level, let's go light candles on the birthday cake. Kid. Whitebeard just smiled, and then directly waved the naginata in his hand, and the violent wind pressure directly blew through it, instantly blowing Ace's flame from split directly in the middle. But, massive flames swept from both sides of Whitebeard's ship, and the heat swept across, igniting many places on the ship. And some of the weaker pirates were directly burned, screaming, some jumping into the sea, and some rolling on the ground. For a while, the Whitebeard pirates were also very busy. Ace, who saw this scene, also smiled and said, "What's wrong? It's just this level, the Whitebeard pirates can't stand it. What an arrogant brat. Since you want to challenge Lousy, then let Lousy teach you a lesson, and the others back off." Moreover, the magma that had been extinguished slowly began to burn again. Ace was also surprised when he saw this. Standing directly in the direction of confrontation with Ace. The violent attack directly hit the island. Let Lousy meet you in person. Advertisement. At the same time, Armament Hockey, who was covered all over his body, slammed out a punch. Even as an ability user of the Phoenix Fruit, Margao felt how terrifying the central Ace was. While speaking, Whitebeard directly raised the naginata in his hand, covered by the power of white vibration, and the sharp blade shone. No matter what, we must get serious. After thinking for a while, Whitebeard also gave up thinking about it, but obviously became a lot more serious. Sure enough, it's a very unusual temperature. And this feeling, the fragments of Hogyoku. No, it's the same feeling of having a complete and cute piece like that bastard of the Golden Lion. However, this kid doesn't seem to be aware of the power in his body. This guy's background. It is impossible for such a guy to obtain a complete Hogyoku by himself. Ask for flowers, ask for monthly tickets, ask for comments, ask for rewards. What a weird flame, even I don't dare to get too close. Riding on Ace itself, the closer you get to Ace, the higher the temperature can be felt. Only the flames within a range of about 500 meters centered on Ace have not been blown out. Seeing this, Whitebeard became a little puzzled. Facing such an opponent, if he is not serious, even he will lose in an instant, or even die. At best, he can only withstand the high temperature with his ability, but once he is attacked. Obviously owns a whole Hogyoku, but Ace seems to be completely unaware of this. Even the power of Hogyoku is only released unconsciously, and has not been really developed at all. So, the only possibility is that this Hogyoku was placed inside him by someone. Advertisement. Although the fire is much smaller than before, it may not be long before it will become the same as before again. After jumping on the shore, carefully feeling the flames around Ace, Whitebeard is almost sure that Ace definitely has a complete Hogyoku on him. The space seemed to be shattered by a punch, and terrible cracks opened in the air. P.S. Open black lens bracket 1 close black lens bracket. Brush. The earth directly set off a terrible flame. Huh. Seeing that his attack failed to blow out all the flames of Ace, Day couldn't help frowning. Lightning and Flint. Because he had fought against Golden Lion before, that was how Golden Lion felt to him at that time, and even Rider next to him didn't have such a sense of oppression. Very abrupt. Whitebeard took a sharp leap and jumped straight to the island. Even the wind turned into a terrifying sharp blade, blowing out most of the flames on the island in an instant, and the ground that had been turned into molten lava turned into a piece of burnt black stone. I'm afraid even his recovery speed can't save him. Immediately afterwards, the shards of air suddenly exploded, and a terrifying vibration was transmitted directly along the air, aiming at Ace's body in a blink of an eye. The action is too obvious. Seeing this move, Whitebeard commented inwardly, and then directly dodged the flame. Chapter 163 Rare Talent. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Chapter 163 A Rare and Rare Talent. Before he had time to think about it, he stepped back, and at the moment of jumping back, the Ryujin Jaka in Ace's hand also swung violently. The high temperature of 3000 degrees scorched the atmosphere and burned everything in front of him. The incomparably hot slash hit Whitebeard's vibration with incomparable thickness. Boom. The roar sounded immediately, and the power that made people feel scalp-numbing exploded directly in the middle. Can you blow my flame away? Ace looked at Whitebeard in surprise, his face full of vigilance and prudence. Ordinary people can't even bear his devil fruit ability, but Whitebeard can directly blast his Ryujin Jaka's flames. You must know that it is a flame of 3000 degrees. The destructive power is quite astonishing. Who do you think Lousy is? He's really underestimated. Brat. Whitebeard snorted disdainfully. Although the temperature of the flame is indeed untouchable, it does not mean that it is invincible. In Whitebeard's view, the current Ace is just a 3-year-old kid with a gun. It's just that Kong has terrible power, but he doesn't know how to use it at all. If the knife in Ace's hand is used by any great swordsman, he may be able to aspire to the 223rd position of the world's strongest in an instant. Of course, Whitebeard would not question the power of this weapon. Even if it is just placed here, it already has incredible and terrifying power. Even he has to constantly use armament hockey to defend his whole body in order to fight Ace. Advertisement. Others, I'm afraid they don't even have the qualifications to fight Ace. Underestimate. I have never underestimated you. Since the day I found out about my background, you have become the man I most want to challenge in this world. Ace's eyes were concentrated, and then he took Ryujin Jaka's right hand and swung it directly at Whitebeard. A large number of fireballs spread out and burst out one after another. Each fireball has a terrifying temperature that can burn people instantly. Interesting. Have you changed the attack method? Seeing that Ace changed the pure destructive power to a ranged attack, the corners of Whitebeard's lips rose. Obviously, Ace's attack style is very simple in his opinion, but just in the battle with him, Ace completely changed his style of play. This kind of abnormal weather is simply rare. But it's 50 years too early to deal with Lousy. Voice down. Whitebeard aimed directly at the surrounding sides, his hands clenched tightly as if they were grabbing the air. Seaquake. In the next second, the sea that was about to calm down suddenly created a huge wave, and the huge wave rose to the sky, and suddenly rushed down to the countless fireballs in the sky. Try this. At the same time, Whitebeard slammed the naginata in his hand, and a huge slash directly broke through the waves, and his blind vision predicted the position of Ace. The frightening sword light is accompanied by armament hockey, possessing an extremely terrifying penetrating power. Kang. Ryujin Jaka swung across in his hand, narrowly blocking Whitebeard's slash. Dull. Crumbs. Just a newcomer. Advertisement. The so-called 4 emperors of the New World only gained a firm foothold under the power of Whitebeard. Whitebeard can be said to be the well-deserved overlord of the 4 emperors of the New World. Both sides have come up with a 12-point spirit to carry out this battle. And this kind of man was even able to fight with a rookie pirate. But once any attack is blocked by Ryujin Jaka, it will have no effect at all. That knife is too tricky. Whitebeard frowned, and his face became a little ugly. Who is Whitebeard? Ace already felt that if he continued like this, he could only passively accept Whitebeard's attacks, without the ability to fight back at all. As long as Ryujin Jaka can touch Whitebeard's body, no matter which part it is, it will instantly roast Whitebeard's whole body. It's completely like a picture of a natural disaster. P.S. Open black lens bracket to close black lens bracket. At the point of impact, a huge gap was directly opened in the sea below. We must find a way to get close to Whitebeard. Judging by his appearance, even if he uses armament hockey, he should not be able to resist Ryujin Jaka's direct attack. There is only one chance. Even if he has rich combat experience, he is enough to crush Ace. Ace doesn't know, so he has only one way to go, and that is to defeat Whitebeard. That's getting close in melee combat and then one-hit kills with the Ryujin Jaka. Ace is very clear that he must not lose. Losing to this man who once lost to Roger on the road of pirates, how can he surpass Roger? How can he end the era of great pirates brought by Roger? Advertisement. To be able to fight with Dad to such an extent, is this guy really a rookie? BCCC. 4 Emperors of the New World. The crew members of the Whitebeard pirates who witnessed this scene showed incredible expressions. This point, now Whitebeard has been very clear. The clouds in the sky moved even more violently. If you don't want to contain Ryujin Jaka in Ace's hand, no matter how you attack, it will be useless. It made them unbelievable anyway. The violent air pressure is like ripples. Neither Kaido nor Big Mom dare to provoke a war on Whitebeard's territory. Ask for flowers, ask for monthly tickets, ask for comments, ask for rewards. The scene of the changing color of the world makes people gasp. And Ace is also thinking about how to beat Whitebeard. How is this possible? The continuous games also let him understand how terrifying the power of Ryujin Jaka in Ace's hands is. Blah blah. Blah blah. Even the Spade pirate ship in the distance and Whitebeard's Moby Dick began to have cracks on the deck, and many pirates were hit by the impacting airflow and fell into the sea. Even. Chapter 164 Seriously Whitebeard. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Chapter 164 Serious Whitebeard. Little Ghost. I have a question to ask you. Your life experience should not be simple. I heard you say it before, since you knew your life experience, you have made up your mind to defeat me. Whitebeard asked Ace. After all, there is a D in Ace's name. For someone like Whitebeard who knows the meaning of D, the attitude towards it is naturally a little different. Hearing Whitebeard's question, Ace fell silent for a moment. For Ace, his own life experience needs to be hidden. After all, the son of One Piece Roger is still alive in this world, which is a direct sensation to the whole world. Once his identity is exposed, he will definitely be hunted down twice by the world government. Even if his own strength is already very strong, if the world government forcefully wants to attack him regardless of the cost, it can still find a way to kill him. After all, the strength of 1 or 2 people is still limited. At least, this is the case for Ace. His power cannot completely ignore the world government, unless he can perfectly grasp the power of the knife in his hand. But, advertisement. To be honest, Ace didn't think Whitebeard would reveal his identity. It's not a conclusion drawn through some reasonable analysis, it's just that Ace simply has such a feeling. Whitebeard wouldn't speak out. My father is Roger. Ace said slowly to Whitebeard, one word at a time. Hearing the name, Whitebeard looked confidently at Ace's face. Although some parts are more similar, Whitebeard did not recognize it at first sight. As that's so, I didn't expect that guy's child to survive. Whitebeard said with a little sigh. As his friend and lifelong enemy, the existence of Roger is also quite special to him. But to Whitebeard's surprise, Roger's child had a complete Hogyoku inside. You must know that Roger had to surrender himself because he was terminally ill, and used his few remaining lives to create the next era. If Roger really had Hogyoku, he wouldn't be terminally ill. As Roger's child, Whitebeard thinks it is very possible that Ace is the one Roger is waiting for, D's will successor. As for why Ace would regard him as a target, Whitebeard probably guessed in his heart. Even the supreme sharp knife is no different from ordinary knives under the high temperature of 3000. However, after the people on the Whitebeard boat felt the breath coming from the island, they said in disbelief, "Really? Dad actually became serious. This kind of appearance can only be seen when facing other four emperors. It just appeared. But since that's the case, then I have to give this kid a good shot. To be honest, although Whitebeard thought it was a bit troublesome, he didn't give it his all. Advertisement. Even covering armament hockey doesn't help. Whitebeard has not been ranked number 1 in the world these years, and has stronger goals to pursue. Even at this age, his strength is not weaker than before, and even stronger. It was completely different from just now, full of deterrence and aggressiveness, as if it was a hungry tiger. Indeed, because the previous opponents were too weak, Ace didn't even have a chance to swing his sword. P.S. Open black lens bracket 3 close black lens bracket. After all, it is too embarrassing to go all out in the face of a newcomer. Doesn't that mean that Whitebeard treats Ace more seriously than the other 4 emperors? I'm afraid there is no need to explain what this means. The high temperature of 3000 degrees burst out in an instant, directly heating the supreme sharp knife until it became soft in an instant. Compared to when he faced the 4 emperors, Whitebeard's aura was stronger this time. Don't be too arrogant. But now that he learned of Ace's identity, Whitebeard's attitude is completely different. However, because the temperature of Ryujin Jaka in Ace's hand is too high, other people have no chance to get close to it, so naturally they cannot hear Ace and Whitebeard's words. So it's too early for you kid to challenge me. And, he's not finished yet. In the sea area of New World, the strong are respected. If Ace really possesses such terrifying strength, then his status will naturally soar to the same level as the 4 emperors, or even a higher level. Advertisement. Moreover, the only place where Hogyoku is produced so far is still in the Hunters Guild, and Roger has nothing to do with the Hunters Guild. Ask for flowers. In an instant, Ace was hit by a fist, and crashed straight into the ground. Ask for flowers, ask for monthly tickets, ask for comments, ask for rewards. Boy, be careful not to die. He fixed his eyes on Ace in front of him, and in an instant, Whitebeard's whole aura changed. Whitebeard let out his own unique laugh loudly, then grabbed the naginata in his hand, and rushed directly to Ace without hesitation. The awe-inspiring armament hockey directly covered the naginata in his hand. You are still far away. Boom. After all, he has only been at sea for a year. Are you serious? Exactly. It's been a long time since I've met an opponent who can use my Ryujin Jaka to swing my sword with all my strength. Ace holding Ryujin Jaka didn't show any fear, but became even more excited. 0. He felt that he had to educate Ace well, and this attitude of not paying attention to anyone at all would suffer sooner or later. Suddenly, Whitebeard directly dropped the naginata in his hand. Even though it was a supreme sword without the slightest hesitation, he grabbed the fist that was bigger than Ace's head, and the terrifying armament hockey directly covered it. Gu la 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 la. Ace also held Ryujin Jaka directly, and directly hit the naginata in Whitebeard's hand. Unreservedly, the huge fist hit Ace directly on the head.
Chapter 165 Murphy arrives previous chapter next chapter. Advertisement Chapter 165 Murphy arrives click. A series of cracks spread out on the ground, and quickly covered the surrounding area. Captain. Seeing such a terrifying attack by Whitebeard, the Spades pirates became a little worried. Although Ace belongs to Logia, it will still be hard to be caught and attacked by Whitebeard. And no matter how you look at it, this blow feels like it can kill a person in an instant. At this time, Ace, who was caught by Whitebeard and punched directly, was almost bloody from the beating, with blood dripping all over his body, as if every inch of his skin had been split open. I don't even know how many bones in my body have been broken. This kind of injury, even if it is the Titan family, I am afraid that Chiba-san will be directly abolished. It is conceivable that Whitebeard's blow was merciless.
If nothing else happened, with Ace's physique, it would take at least a whole year to recover from this kind of injury. But Whitebeard seemed to be confirming something, carefully staring at Ace's body, as if wanting to research some results.
Really? This abnormal recovery speed is undoubtedly the power of Hogyoku. Seeing that Ace's injuries are improving rapidly, Whitebeard said to himself. It can be said that it is close to fatal injury, but Ace's current breath is slowly getting better. Advertisement is. Suddenly, Ace below coughed twice, and the blood spurted out again, spraying around Ace's body, which looked extremely tragic. The speed of recovery is quite fast. At this moment, even Whitebeard hadn't realized what happened, when suddenly, a figure appeared beside Ace. What? Whitebeard's pupils shrank sharply, and it was the first time he met such a character who could directly appear in front of him without any reaction. But Murphy ignored Whitebeard's surprised expression, and directly stretched out his hand towards Ace. Seeing Murphy's actions, Whitebeard didn't know what Murphy wanted to do, but at this time Ace had no power to resist, so Whitebeard naturally didn't allow anyone to threaten Ace. The fist of the right hand turned black, and the huge fist aimed directly at Murphy. Boom, however. Just when Whitebeard's fist was less than half a meter away from Murphy, an invisible wall directly blocked Whitebeard's fist. What are you worried about, Whitebeard? Because Ace is Roger's son, does that make you more concerned? Murphy asked Whitebeard without looking back. A quaint aura came from the sword in his hand, slowly rippling out. You are? Suddenly, Ace remembered who the person in front of him was, and said in surprise, Marine Admiral. Why? Immediately after that, he reached out directly to grab Ryujin Jaka. Advertisement at less than half a meter away from Murphy, it was as if there was an insurmountable gully, blocking everything on the other side. In addition to that terrifying Ryotsu, as well as strange means, there is only one guy among the guys he knows, Admiral of Headquarters and Naval Headquarters General Staff Mo. Don't move, everyone else will die with that knife. Ask for flowers, ask for monthly tickets, ask for comments, ask for rewards. Immediately after Murphy held Ryujin Jaka, a huge Ryotsu erupted from Murphy's body. To be honest, I'm a little disappointed. I've prepared so many things, but I didn't expect to see you in such a miserable state again after many years. Looking at Ace's miserable appearance, he's slowly speaking of. However, although it is the same knife, it is completely different. In Ryotsu's enveloping range, Whitebeard could clearly feel the surrounding temperature rising wildly. The golden flame ignited on Ryujin Jaka again, but this time, it was completely different from when Ace used it before. But Ace seems to have forgotten who gave this Ryujin Jaka to him. All those who wanted to steal his knife in these years were directly burned to ashes by Ryujin Jaka's flame without exception. That Marine, who just became a cadet of the elite camp decades ago, ran onto his ship alone. As if he knew that Whitebeard's attack couldn't cause him a little damage. With Whitebeard at the center, a terrifying blast kicked up dust. Advertisement Murphy held the sword in one hand, placed the sword in 4.0 obliquely by his feet, and spoke softly. Is it necessary to be in such a hurry, Whitebeard? Murphy shook his head, put his hand on Ace's chest, and said, Kaido. Boom, seeing that Murphy was going to get the knife, Ace reminded anxiously. This cloud of dust appeared only behind Whitebeard. Ace tried to struggle to stand up, but he didn't succeed. It's a pity that Ryujin Jaka is in your hands. Let me show you how to use Ryujin Jaka. However, Whitebeard did not answer Murphy's words, but directly lit up a halo of light above the fist, and once again exploded with strength. Whitebeard knew very well that the power of this knife was quite terrifying. It's just that Ace can't play it out. Everything is ashes, Ryujin Jaka, but if there is another person, then the situation may be difficult to say. Immediately afterwards, a blue light appeared in Murphy's hand, and soon, the wound of Ace lying on the ground began to heal quickly. P.S. Open black lens bracket 1 close black lens bracket. Under the power of Ryujin Jaka, Murphy's terrifying and domineering Ryotsu once again added a terrifying temperature. Boom, along with the healing of the wound, Ace also slowly woke up. Seeing the vague figure in front of him, he felt a little familiar. Chapter 166 Ryujin Jaka 1 Style / Previous chapter. Next chapter Advertisement Chapter 166 Ryujin Jaka 1 Style Slashing. Is it still not working? There is no way to perform Bankai. After holding the Zanpakuto in his hand, Murphy also tried to see if he could perform Bankai directly. But unfortunately it didn't work out. This imitation Ryujin Jaka wants to have the power of Bankai, and father and son Ace and Roger have to work hard. That is the ability of the captain. Is the captain okay? Far away on the other side, seeing a sun-like flame suddenly lit up on the island again, the Spades pirates were also slightly relieved. Because the temperature on the island was too high, The Spades pirates and the Whitebeard pirates couldn't get close, so they didn't know what happened on the island. It can only be roughly judged by the aftermath of the battle. Ace's flame has been gone for so long just now, the Spades pirates are quite worried. No. The temperature is even higher, 12 even across the sea and such a long distance, the high temperature may be 80 or 90 degrees. Continue to retreat. Feel the temperature in the air is stronger than before. Mal Gao immediately ordered Whitebeard to continue to retreat. Ryujin Jaka 1 style caress cut. A huge golden flame slash flew directly from the Ryujin Jaka held in Murphy's hand. With a single strike of the sword, golden flames surged, and the entire island instantly turned into a mass of magma, and even began to slowly descend. Obviously, under the temperature of Ryujin Jaka, not only the surface of the island, but even the bottom of the island has begun to melt, scattered back into the sea. Seeing this scene under his feet, Whitebeard also felt a little horrified in his heart, and at the same time he also felt a little headache. Even he might not be able to resist a flame of this level. Empty shock. Seeing the crazy flames rushing towards him, Whitebeard unceremoniously used his Devil Fruit ability. The good thing is that his Devil Fruit ability is at least functional. Advertisement. Although the temperature of the flame is high, there is no way to ignore his vibration directly. The surrounding flames were also knocked back by his punch and stopped temporarily. However, the fierce flames have already formed an encirclement circle around him. Even the pirate ship that is far away has a high temperature close to 100 degrees. What a horrible heat. If it wasn't for Armament Hockey's defense being strong enough, he might have been burned through long ago. However, this is only the aftermath of Ryujin Jaka. Boom! Sudden a slash roared in front of Whitebeard. Hairstand. Observation Hockey has predicted the attack in advance. However, the speed of the slash was too fast. Even if he wanted to dodge it, it was already too late. The right fist was directly raised, the blue veins burst out, and the huge biceps bulged. Empty shock. Without hesitation, he punched directly at the slash. Boom! Rumbling, the extremely exaggerated slash directly collided with the fist that shattered the air. The mighty and boundless shock wave was like the wrath of the gods, centered on the two of them, blowing everything around them away. Stormy Waves advertisement. Great visual impact. Not to mention that he has practiced to use Bankai. Even if he can skillfully use the power of Ryujin Jaka, he can easily surpass the former One Piece Roger. Ryujin Jaka Bankai that even Murphy can't use if he can. Ask for flowers, ask for monthly tickets, ask for comments, ask for rewards. Now Murphy is fighting Whitebeard, and he cut off Whitebeard's arm in just one move. You're still a long way off. An extremely thick severed arm fell to the ground. Etc. Is it that strong already? You are Marine, and you also know my identity. Why did you help me in the first place, and you don't plan to arrest me now? Ace asked, very puzzled. P.S. Open black lens bracket. Too close black lens bracket. Gulu. The instant Murphy turned, Whitebeard and Ace yelled at Murphy at the same time. The collision lasted less than a second, and Whitebeard's right hand was instantly torn apart. Etc. Peeved. If only Bankai. Clenching his fists tightly, Ace muttered to himself. Advertisement. Thinking of this, Ace's eyes were involuntarily filled with enthusiasm and anticipation. He is obviously a Marine, but he has helped him so much. And Whitebeard even looked at his arm that had been cut off with a knife, and some didn't know how to react. But why? That horror is a power comparable to that of a god. Ace's fiery eyes couldn't hide his shock. The entire arm was instantly chopped off by Murphy's slash. After all, it is a monster that can continue to fight even if half of its face is damaged, let alone just lose a hand. But even though he lost an arm, Whitebeard's expression didn't change much. Bankai. Later, I also learned that Murphy is the Admiral of Headquarters, and he is the one who captured the One Piece Roger. This. Just kidding. Ace swallowed in disbelief. And now that he is powerless to resist, Murphy has no intention of arresting him. A very clear tearing sound suddenly sounded after leaving such a sentence. He was about to turn around and leave. Have you seen it? The real power of Ryujin Jaka. You don't even have 1/10 of the power I just wielded just now, and on top of Ryujin Jaka Shikai, there is Bankai who can instantly increase the combat power several times. Gaze looking directly at Ace opposite, Murphy said slowly. Standing where he was, looking at Murphy's extraordinarily young face, Whitebeard also sighed inwardly. I'll give it back to you. With just a swing of his sword, Murphy threw the Ryujin Jaka back to Ace's side, as if he didn't care about the invincible Ryujin Jaka. Since that day, Ace has been focusing on identity. Chapter 167 Target Celestial Dragons. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Chapter 167 Goal Celestial Dragons.
And Whitebeard presumably thought so too. He is the majestic four emperors of the New World, but Murphy, who is Marine, doesn't seem to be interested in him at all, which is almost like an insult to him.
Is it the opposing identities of Marine and Pirate? That's true. Hearing what the other party said, Murphy also nodded. But then Murphy changed the subject, looked back at the two and said, but, what does this have to do with me? After all, First won't be Marine anytime soon. After leaving such a sentence, a beam of light suddenly fell from the sky, directly enveloping the whole person. What? That is. Ace's eyes widened, and he saw that above the sky, there was a hole in the sky, and there were dense monsters like some kind of mass-produced monsters inside. At least, within Ace's cognition, such a guy absolutely does not exist in this world. Wait. What do you mean by that? Ace rushed over and asked anxiously.
For him, the existence of Murphy has always been like a mystery, and it is not easy to meet each other in this situation. Ace naturally wants to make it clear. Damn, if you don't give me an explanation, don't think about leaving. Ace said while grabbing Ryujin Jaka next to him.
Although his use of Ryujin Jaka is not as good as Murphy, but the characteristics of Ryujin Jaka are placed there.
Advertisement. In Ace's view, no matter what it is, as long as it comes into contact with Ryujin Jaka's body, it will be melted instantly, so without further ado, Ace directly used Ryujin Jaka to strike heavily on negation.
However, the expected instant dissolution of negation by Ryujin Jaka's scorching heat did not happen.
Clang. It was like an ordinary kitchen knife slashing on steel, making a harsh metal friction sound, and the reaction force directly shocked Ace's arm, which was almost numb.
The Ryujin Jaka in his hand also involuntarily let go and fell directly to the ground. Negation, on the other hand, was not damaged in the slightest. Not to mention this imitation Ryujin Jaka, even the real Bankai in the hands of Captain Yamamoto couldn't break the negation.
Seeing this scene, Murphy shook his head helplessly, and said, "It's useless, this thing is called negation. Once the beam of light is completed, two completely different worlds will be formed outside the beam of light and inside of the beam of light.
In other words, when the beam of light is completed, you won't have any chance to touch me." How come? Hearing what Murphy said, Ace looked at negation in disbelief. Ace, when we see you next time, I hope you can be a little more confident. Besides, you should already know the origin of Zanpakuto in your hand, and how to find someone to ask about Ryotsu, Murphy said to Ace. Although it was said that he buried Hogyoku in Ace's body quietly, even Ace himself didn't know. Advertisement. But after so many years, Ace should also be aware of the huge Ryotsu in his body. It's just that even with a huge Ryotsu, Ace without any teaching is just squandering this power at will. And the best teacher is naturally the sword spirit hiding in Ryujin Jaka, One Piece Roger. As Ace's father, Roger is definitely willing, and even wants to take the initiative to teach Ace to become stronger.
But this scene did not appear, so obviously. It is Ace who is refusing. Ace refuses to appear as the sword spirit Roger. Maybe Ace has already known the identity of this sword spirit in Ryujin Jaka, so he keeps refusing.
The origin of Ryujin Jaka. Hearing Murphy mention this, Ace was also stunned, looking at Ryujin Jaka who was close at hand, wondering if he should reach for it. Maybe you can have a talk with this guy. One Piece Roger was not captured by Marine. After leaving such a sentence, Murphy turned and walked into Hueco Mundo. Murphy also said so much to Ace because he expected Ace and Roger to help him complete Ryujin Jaka Bankai. But if Ace really doesn't live up to expectations, then he can only change someone. How's their investigation at the Sabodi archipelago going? After walking in, Murphy asked the one next to him with the number 7 carved on his forehead. Master Murphy, this time you left naval headquarters. The world government has dispatched almost all CPO aces and the 2 marine admirals to investigate the entrance to the Sabodi archipelago. But don't worry, it's just them. This Espada just wanted to speak, but Murphy stopped him directly. Advertisement 1. Let all those guys in, Murphy said unhurriedly. Hearing this, the Espada looked at Murphy in confusion, and said doubtfully, but Mr. Murphy, wouldn't you be exposed in this way? The world government has already done this. I'm afraid it's almost certain. Even if it's not exposed, I'm afraid they will find some reason to trouble me, Murphy said without delay. So what if there is no proof? As long as the world government decides so, it will definitely find a way to deal with Murphy. In this case, it would be better to expose it directly to the other party. Arrange Manos Grande and any Espada that can be mobilized to fight. By the way, let Lu Chi stay. I have other arrangements. Leaving such a wang's sentence, Murphy walked directly in another direction stretch in the past. Before being exposed, he still has one more thing to do. In order to break through the passage from Sabo de Archipelago to Hueco Mundo, the world government can be said to be almost all out. In other words, at this time, Marijoy has fallen into the emptiest time period. What will happen to these celestial dragons without the protection of CPO's strongest shield? Chapter 168 Invasion of Marijoy Previous chapter Next chapter. Advertisement Chapter 168 Invasion of Marijoy Holy Land Marijoy. As the descendants of 20 kings, the celestial dragons living here can be said to be very arrogant and domineering, claiming to be the descendants of the Creator. Generally speaking, if you do something to celestial dragons, you will immediately attract Marine Admiral and CPO. But this time is different. Now Marijois's CP0 Ace and Admiral, who is stationed here, happen to go to Sabo de Archipelago to investigate. So at this time Marijois's guard force is quite empty. It's even more empty than when Murloc Tiger invaded Marijoy. A smell of decay. Walking on Marijoy, and following Murphy, Lu Chi suddenly said such a sentence.
Corrupt. It might not be correct to say that. It should be said that it is the breath of rampage. The rights and privileges possessed by celestial dragons are not restricted, and then they are moving towards the breath of rampage. Faye walked in the middle of Marijoy openly, and did not mind the evaluation at all. From celestial dragons. If it were someone else, just walking in Marijoy would already be frightening. After all, this is the territory of the celestial dragons. If someone is not careful, the Wylongs might take everyone into slavery. 130 And it's still the kind that can't resist. Hey, what were you two over there just now? At this moment, two soldiers in full armor next to him seemed to have heard the conversation between Murphy and Lu Chi, and approached with unfriendly expressions.
But neither Murphy nor Lu Chi paid any attention to this small role. Advertisement As if he didn't hear the other party's words at all, he continued to move forward on his own. Bastard, didn't you hear? Before he finished speaking, Lu Chi suddenly turned his head, and a sharp look flashed in his eyes. Moment. Lu Chi directly pulled out the Zanpakuto from his waist. His eyes without any other extra emotion suddenly flashed in front of the two soldiers. With one slash, the sharp Zanpakuto cut open the bodies of the two soldiers, and the bloody scene immediately appeared behind Murphy. However, he did not choose to look back, because such a scene was indeed not very beautiful, and it affected people's mood somewhat. With the sound of Lu Chi closing the knife, everything in the world, BCBA, became quiet. It's a very sharp knife. It's a wise decision to bring you out of Vegapunk. Regarding Lu Chi's knife, Murphy said with a very appreciative attitude. Just like a humanoid weapon, Lu Chi's knife has no confusion or hesitation, which makes Murphy very satisfied. Now Lu Chi looks like Ulquiola, and his talent may not be lost to the first Espada Stark. Let's go. Go to the place where the celestial dragons live. Having said that, Sin spent his pledge toward the place where the celestial dragons lived. Hey, you two, the residential area of celestial dragons is ahead. Stop now. As soon as they reached the entrance, the guard soldiers of Pangu City stood up immediately, trying to prevent Murphy and Lu Chi from entering. While walking, Murphy gently raised his finger. Hado number 4 by Lei. Advertisement A thunderbolt directly penetrated the body of the soldier in front, and Murphy continued to walk forward as if nothing had happened. It was as if he had killed an ant just now, and it couldn't cause any fluctuations in Sin's heart at all. I'm afraid no one can believe that in a place like Marijoy, two people alone dare to directly kill the subordinates of celestial dragons in full view. You. How dare you? The soldiers guarding the city gate saw Murphy blatantly killing the subordinates of celestial dragons, but they didn't react for a while. They stood up and pointed at Murphy, with a trembling tone. It seems that you also want to accompany him. Lu Chi will do it. Murphy ordered directly to Lu Chi next to him. Feeling the murderous intent without any hesitation, the soldier immediately pressed the first level alert without hesitation. And at this moment, Lu Chi's knife had already scratched his neck, blood gushed out, and his head fell. Alert! 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 At the same time, the entire Marijoy was instantly shrouded in red light. Since the time of the Murloc Tiger last time, the vigilance here has also increased a lot. Have you been exposed? If that's the case, then I'm not being polite. Seeing that Marijoy had instantly activated the highest alert state, FaZe said lightly. Of course, he'd known it would be like this from the very beginning. After all, he had no intention of sneaking into Marijoy. Advertisement, Master Murphy, are you going to send Jillian into the battlefield? Lu Chi asked Murphy, who was beside him. Although this situation can already be put into Jillian, as long as a normal person can judge it, Lu Chi still asks Murphy's opinion first. He will not easily do other actions without getting permission. Release all the Jillians from Area 1 and Area 2, Murphy replied, and was extremely satisfied with Lu Chi's reaction. Lu Chi nodded, and tore it casually. 2 cracks appeared, and countless Jillians poured out crazily. Go. Eat all the creatures you can see, Lu Chi ordered. As soon as the words fell, the group of Jillians frantically rushed towards Pangu City like ghosts who had been hungry for an unknown amount of time. Roar. Jillian's crazy growls suddenly spread throughout Marijoy. Before the 5 elders in the office could even react, hundreds of monsters were already frantically rushing towards them. The same Jillian, exactly the same appearance, but they all have quite terrible destructive power. And all Jillians have one characteristic, very violent, full of desire to destroy and kill. Chapter 169 The Strongest CPO. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Chapter 169 The Strongest CPO. Under the stunned eyes of 5 elders, countless red Sero began to destroy Marijoy crazily. That is a weapon made by Vegapunk before. Why did it appear in this place? 5 elders with an ugly scar on his forehead saw Jillian outside, and immediately remembered the report submitted by Vegapunk. However, there are not many such monsters produced by Vegapunk, and there is no way to control them, and they will even kill each other. There is no way to be unified and commanded to attack as they are now.
Damn, have you been tricked? Admiral and the CPO were sent to Sabayati Archipelago. I didn't expect that guy to attack Marijoy directly. It seems that guy is eager to turn against us. 5 elders holding a sword, their faces were very ugly, and based on their experience, they immediately guessed what was going on.
If my guess is correct, these things are probably the same as those under the Sabayati Archipelago. Even the research results of that jerk Punk was helped by that kid Testafi.
The blonde 5 elders said, frowning. Vegapunk's research results require a lot of human experiments to produce a large number of Manos Grande, and the pirates that Murphy has been using his position to take away from the marine base before this may also be used as test subjects. In this way, it can be explained why the marine base where Murphy is located basically has a rather abnormal number of pirates missing. Advertisement. It's a good thing we still have a hand left. Let Killer Brad deal with that guy. 5 elders, who was sitting on a chair, stroked his long goatee, as if he had already guessed that this was the case again. It was he who deliberately left Killer Brad, in case Marijoy was attacked. Different from other CPO strongest shields, the guy codenamed Killer has far surpassed the strength of the same batch of CPO strongest shields. It can even be said to be the strongest CPO since the establishment of the world government. It is also the undisputed strongest trump card of CPO. And unlike other CPO strongest shields, Brad is not responsible for protecting celestial dragons at all, because this guy is too dangerous. Let that guy do it. 5 elders with the sword frowned, obviously a little dissatisfied with Brad. Of course, it's not because of dissatisfaction with his strength, but because of that guy's personality. Once he makes a move, that guy will be like a lunatic. No matter who is in front of him, he will kill them all. Anyway, there will be no worse situation than this. Let that guy go and get rid of the monsters outside.
It seems that this is the only way to do it. Go to the prison and release that guy.
5 elders, who was holding the first generation Goosh, rolled his eyes and said, that guy Murphy should be outside now, let the people from the Suigetsu archipelago withdraw. But just as the 5 elders finished speaking, the phone bug in front of him suddenly rang. Advertisement. 5 elders didn't think too much, and directly connected to the phone bug, and then the phone bug turned into a CPO-like appearance and said to 5 elders, Your Excellency 5 elders, the channel on the Suigetsu archipelago has been opened. But we seem to have encountered some troubles here.
Trouble? Hearing this, 5 elders frowned. At this moment in Suigetsu archipelago, there were 10 CPO's strongest shields, plus Marine Admiral. He couldn't think of anything that could stop them. There are 6 guys with different numbers calling themselves Espada who are fighting us. Each of them is almost as strong as us, and there are quite a lot of huge black monsters behind them. I'm afraid it will take a long time to solve it. The CP0 replied. Hearing this news, 5 elders turned pale. Unexpectedly, 6 combat powers comparable to Marine Admiral came out directly. They had never heard of such a thing before.
Bastard. 5 elders, who had a flat forehead next to him, slammed his fist on the table very angrily. A very sharp light flashed in his eyes. No wonder that bastard dared to invade Mariajoy so openly, and secretly cultivated such a large group force. Isn't that in the Suigetsu archipelago? Directly spend money to let people from the Hunters Guild deal with it together, and let our people withdraw as much as possible. It doesn't matter how much money is spent, let Golden Lion and his 2 vice presidents do it together. Ask for flowers. Agreed. It's just a little money. Let the 3 presidents of the Hunters Guild work together. It's enough to withdraw all the CPOs on our side. At this time, CP0 is more trustworthy. Obviously, even if it is to hire the Hunter Guild, 5 elders, they will not choose to let the people from the Hunter Guild directly come to Mariajoy. Once the 3 Super Admiral monsters come to Mariajoy, if there is no way to control them well, that will be a bigger problem. Simultaneously. Advertisement. Inside Mariajoy's secret prison.
In the deepest part of the prison, when walls made of iron and steel rose slowly, making a deafening noise.
Just from this sound, one can feel how terrifying the weight of these walls is. And these steel walls are like a cage, completely hiding someone inside. Huh. Did something happen outside? Lousy actually wanted to do it. In the deepest part of the cage, an eye suddenly opened, and the bloodshot eye was full of bloody feeling. The fierceness is revealed. Forget it. It's not bad to be able to kill after a long time. He casually picked up a sword with a tattered blade beside him, and stuck out his tongue to lick the blade. It has been placed here for such a long time, but the smell of blood on the blade still hasn't dissipated.
Chapter 170. The released monster. Previous chapter. Next chapter.
Advertisement. Chapter 170. The released monster. It is conceivable how many people died under this tattered knife that seemed to have been used.
I'm afraid anyone will tremble after seeing this scene.
Who's inside? At this moment, a jailer came over. Seeing that the wall turned into a huge prison, the jailer was also a little puzzled. He is an old man here, and he is quite familiar with every place in this place. He has never heard of prisoner number 1 before, and no one has even delivered food here.
But at this moment, brush the bloody knife flashes.
The blood drew a long trail in the air. The jailer standing at the door didn't even have time to scream. 503. It was cut into 2 cleanly and neatly from the head to the lower body, and from the middle. Blood dripping. Advertisement. The faces of many prisoners who saw this scene changed, with horrified expressions on their faces. Completely cold from head to toe. The smell of blood irritated their nostrils. It's been a long time since I've felt this smell of blood. But it's not enough. In the dark passage, a figure slowly came out step by step.
The face is distorted, and the smile is also extremely terrifying. Are there still so many wastes being imprisoned here? Those old men in the government are still wastes like before. Brad licked the tattered knife in his hand. Part of it is on top.
Looking arrogantly at the group of prisoners imprisoned in the prison, Brad laughed and said, "You trash. Those who want to challenge me stand up. I will help you cut down these cages, and come up to besiege me."
10, 100. It doesn't matter if everyone is together. If you kill me, you will all be free. Brad aggressively challenged the surrounding prisoners. It must be known that the prisoners here are not simple. People who can be secretly imprisoned by the world government are at least over 100 million people in this sea. After all, they are a group of irascible pirates. After hearing Brad's provocation, they all got excited and expressed their intention to kill Brad. Even the jailers here don't dare to treat these prisoners too badly, because many people here have some secrets about the world government and the like, and the government wants to find out some valuable things from here. P.S. Open black lens bracket 1 close black lens bracket. When Brad walked out of the world government's secret prison, there was no one alive in the prison. Ask for flowers, ask for monthly tickets, ask for comments, ask for rewards. Advertisement. Is that so? It's for me to deal with these monsters outside. No wonder those guys are willing to let me out. However, since you let me out, then I should do a little bit of work. It's just that these people were not imprisoned and impelled down due to various reasons. If all of them are killed in one go, the world government will definitely chase them down. Although he can chop off the head of the person in front of him in an instant, he enjoys the process very much, enjoys killing others, and enjoys seeing these people greet death in great pain. Then there were continuous screams. But Brad, a lunatic, doesn't care so much. He will do it as long as he wants to. Just at the beginning, Brad cast a shadow over the minds of these criminals.
No blood. After beheading Jillian, Brad discovered that these Jillians had no blood and dissipated immediately after being beheaded. In the eyes of others, Jillian, who would recover quickly no matter how he attacked, and whose defense was extremely terrifying, was like an irresistible baby in front of Brad, who could be wiped out with just one blow at 3.3. His eyes were fixed directly on the huge group of Jillians. However, these voices come and go quickly. Not bad. Not bad. This kind of momentum is all it takes. Seeing the reactions of the people around him, Brad was also very happy.
The speed of being solved is not known how many times faster than Kizaru kicking a supernova. There was no signal to start a war, or this time it was already a signal to start a war. Brad did not know when he had moved to the side of the pirate in the next room, and drops of blood fell on the ground drop by drop. Advertisement. The game begins. Immediately afterwards, Brad's figure flashed past, and the scarlet blade seemed to be made of blood, cutting off all the cages directly. In less than 5 minutes, more than 20 pirates worth over 100 million have lost all signs of life. In front of Brad, the pirate knelt down on the ground with his neck covered in pain. Asshole. At this time, the group of Jillians were destroying Marie-Joy without restraint, and every Sero harvested a lot of lives. Then, the time for massacres can begin. After leaving such a sentence, almost only a red figure can be seen constantly starting to shuttle here. Too arrogant. Let Lousy crush you. As soon as he came out from below, Brad saw what Marie-Joy looked like at a glance. More than 20 pirates with bounties worth over 100 million have all been released. Interesting. It's the first time I've encountered such a creature. It won't work if you don't cut it a few times. Whether it is the criminals held here, or the jailer and warden here, there is no exception. Brad licked the tattered knife in his hand, and immediately jumped up with an acceleration. The bloody slash directly killed a Jillian easily. Completely indiscriminate attacks, whether it is against celestial dragons, world government officials, soldiers stationed, or even those poor slaves. Chapter 171 Strongest CP9 vs Strongest CP0 Previous chapter. Next chapter Advertisement Chapter 171 Strongest CP9 vs Strongest CPO. Walking on the road of Marie-Joy, Lu Chi followed behind Murphy. Suddenly, Murphy said, "Looks like someone who can see a little bit has finally appeared." Enemy? Lu Chi looked around in a strange way. His basic strength is the strongest among the Espadas, because he can devour others to strengthen his own foundation, whether it is high-speed regeneration, steel skin steering or even the sensory nerve is the strongest among Espada. Even the Golden Lion with Hogyoku may not be as good as Lu Chi in these aspects. Of course, for the price, Lu Chi's Zanpakuto is pretty much just a slightly stronger knife. Even his sensory nerves at this level didn't detect the enemy, so Lu Chi felt confused. However, in the next second, Jillian in the distance began to be killed one by one, turning into spirit particles and disappearing into the air. It looks like it will be a very interesting opponent. 12 Lu Chi, you go and deal with that guy. Murphy said to Lu Chi beside him. Yes. Hearing Murphy's words, Lu Chi replied, and then disappeared in place in an instant. On the other side, Brad, who was madly killing Jillian, suddenly felt another person appear beside him, and his hand that killed Jillian also stopped. It seems that the real master is here. Are these monsters your subordinates? It's really interesting. Brad looked at Lu Chi and asked very curiously. Being able to mass produce so many monsters and control them with confidence, this kind of strength should be able to accompany him in a good fight. Advertisement. No. Not only these Jillians, but also me are just Lord Murphy's subordinates. Lu Chi replied with an unchanged expression, as if he didn't care about this matter at all. Cut. Isn't it the right owner? Boring. Hearing that Lu Chi was not the right owner, Brad looked disappointed. If it is the same as these Jillians, or just slightly stronger than these Jillians, then it is meaningless. I'll kill you and go find that guy. Brad had a ferocious smile on his face, and his tone was full of blood. And his almost unstoppable combat power really gave him the confidence to say such things, if only in the original world. And Lu Chi didn't say much. He raised the ordinary Zanpakuto in his hand, and pointed it in Brad's direction. The so-called strongest player of CP9 in the past 800 years confronted the strongest trump card of CPO. It's over. Suddenly, Brad moved directly behind Lu Chi, and aimed at Lu Chi's neck with the tattered-looking blood-colored broadsword in his hand, and chopped it down fiercely. It is indeed over. However, the moment Brad swung his weapon, an incomparably cold voice came from behind him without any emotion. I saw that Lu Chi, who was still in front of him just now, moved behind them in an instant, aiming at Brad's neck with exactly the same posture. As if insulting Brad's innocence. Boom, advertisement. Zanpakuto swung down heavily. Boom. Just by swiping the sword, a terrifying force swept across the ground directly. A terrifying trace directly followed the direction of the sword, and thick smoke and dust rose. Terrible shock waves swept through the entire Marijoy. But at the same time, the moment Lu Chi swung the knife, Brad's figure also disappeared at the same time. What a powerful slash, even much stronger than me. Shifting to the air next to him, Brad looked at Lu Chi with caution. With a stronger slash than him, and a level of movement speed with him, Brad felt a little bit of pressure. If it's facing an opponent who is slightly stronger than him, Brad doesn't care. After all, his devil fruit ability is space-based, and he can instantly move to any position he can see. But just now, he could clearly feel that Lu Chi's way of moving is also to move directly in space. With the same type of space movement ability as him, coupled with the terrifying destructive power, if he is not careful, he will probably be beheaded. Don't get me wrong, there is a decisive gap between me and you, Lu Chi said lightly, as if seeing through what Brad was thinking. He's ahead of Brad in every aspect, not just one or two.
Advertisement. The ability to move in space is indeed almost invincible. Going from one place to another is simply teleportation. It seems that if both of them are space ability users, they should be evenly matched.
But in fact, there is a huge gap between heaven and earth. Because of the difference in reaction speed, in terms of reaction speed, as human beings, Brad and Lu Chi already have a big gap. Just like this, I have already moved in front of you, and your observation hockey probably hasn't caught up with me yet. Lu Chi 370 suddenly appeared in front of Brad. A very simple horizontal chop directly aimed at Brad and swung it away. In a hurry, Brad didn't even have time to use his devil fruit ability, subconsciously swung his knife and slashed at Lu Chi head on. Clang very easily, the knife in Brad's hand was directly chopped off, and it could even be clearly seen that a gap was abruptly seen in the knife that had already covered armament hockey. Lu Chi's body that doesn't look like a Gundam seems to hide an extremely terrifying power. You can't even hold the knife in your hand? It's ridiculous to be so weak. Lu Chi mocked Brad very disdainfully. However, Brad ignored Lu Chi's taunt, but teleported over directly, trying to grab his own knife and attack again. Chapter 172. See 5 Elders previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. See 5 Elders in Chapter 172. However, just as Brad was teleporting, Lu Chi also predicted that Brad would go to pick up the weapon, and teleported to this place at the same time, and even got Brad's knife one step ahead of time. It's still too tender. However, in the next second, Brad put on a posture directly, and punched Lu Chi's chest with a punch. A punch that didn't hold back at all directly hit Lucci's body. Moreover, Brad didn't give Lucci any chance to adjust. He attacked Lucci crazily and continuously, and directly snatched his own knife from Lucci's hand. Blowout. In just a few seconds, Brad actually swung nearly 1,000 knives directly. As for these attacks, Lucci didn't block a single move, and all of them fell on him. Ha 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 ha. Boy, let lousy teach you, not only strength is important, tactics are also very important. Your idea is completely within my expectations. Brad laughed wildly. Especially looking at Lucci, who was cut by him, Brad's eyes became more and more red. First pretend that you want to grab a knife, and then go straight to the raid. To be honest, Brad prepared 3 or 4 backhands, but he didn't expect to use so many. The first one who fell into Lucci immediately fell close. It's really careless. After Brad slashed nearly 1,000 knives in a row, Lucci also used the rotary ring to temporarily distance himself. Advertisement gently patted the dust on his body, still with an expression of indifference. Even after being attacked so fiercely just now, Lucci didn't seem to have suffered a little bit of damage. What? How is it possible? Seeing that Lucci didn't have any wounds all over his body, Brad had an expression of disbelief. He can be sure that there is absolutely nothing wrong with the feel of the person who just cut it, but it was right that he hit the target, but he swung 1,000 knives with almost all his strength, but Lucci didn't seem to be hurt at all. Because your strength is too weak, so I don't care about your thoughts. It's like you, when did you care about the thoughts of the ant on the side, and even think about whether this ant will hurt you? Open tortoise shell bracket. Lucci said to Brad.
The reason why he was so careless was entirely because Brad was too weak. Weakness made him not have the slightest intention to try his best to defend, and his weakness made him not interested in thinking about what the opponent was planning.
Just like just now, even if Brad was allowed to attack at will, Brad couldn't even break through his steel skin. If the attack power does not reach a certain level, even a violent attack and swing 1,000 times or 10,000 times is useless. Collectively, the defense has not yet been broken. Not to mention that in addition to the steel skin, Lucci also possesses an extremely terrifying high-speed regeneration ability, and his constant devouring has also strengthened his high-speed regeneration ability, except for Golden Lion and Rider who have complete except for Hogyoku's power. Anyone's high-speed regeneration ability is far inferior to Lucci. Including the bullet monster. Weak? Are you kidding me? I'm the strongest CPO.
Advertisement. Lucci's words completely stimulated his nerves. Weak. The word has never had the slightest relationship with him. But Lucci's words hurt him deeply. The reason is also very simple, because a series of attacks just now have no effect at all.
This is like when playing LOL, you play an assassin set and hit the stone man, all the details, all kinds of operations are all full, and then the set of damage just knocked out the stone man's passive. Then the stone man on the other side typed on the screen. That's it. At this time, it is estimated that individuals will become irritable in an instant, and want to start a real-person PK along the network cable. And the same is true for Lucci and Brad's fight. A set of careful design and full output, it turned out that it failed to break through Lucci's steel skin at all, and was ridiculed in turn. One can imagine how big the shadow was in my heart. And when the strongest player in CP9 for 800 years and the strongest player in CPU confronted each other, there was only one place where they were not attacked by Jillian. There are 6 people gathered in this place at this time, 5 elders' office. Advertisement. As soon as he saw Murphy walk in, 5 elders, who was holding a demon knife, immediately made a look of wanting to do something, but was stopped by the 5 elders with blonde hair next to him. Why are you here? Asked the blonde 5 elders, looking at Murphy. Murphy smiled, rubbed his eyes on the bridge of his nose, and replied with a calm face. Your Excellency, 5 elders said this. Isn't it too strange? This kind of thing happened in Marijoy. As Marine Admiral, I naturally want to go forward. Let's take a look, shall we? Hearing Murphy's words, 5 elders, who had a flat forehead, frowned, and said with some displeasure. If it's talking nonsense, let's stop here. It's already reached this point, and there's no point in pretending. This level? Oh, you're talking about the Jillians, right? Murphy turned his head, looking out from the door. He could still see a considerable number of Jillians destroying Marijoy crazily. It's just a small greeting, Murphy said with a nonchalant expression. Although this group of Jillians was very destructive, in Murphy's view, they were nothing more than a pile of gravel. It can even be said, well, that they are just some toys that I made in my spare time. At the same time, Murphy also walked directly towards Five Elders' sofa, not paying any attention to the other 5 elders sitting on it, and just sat down. It's still too early to say. Why don't we wait here together? Let's talk about it until the Marine and CPO come back. Hearing Murphy's words, the 5 elders looked at each other. Chapter 173, The Arrival of Marine and CP0. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Chapter 173, The Arrival of Marine and CPO. And soon the battle between Brad and Lu Chi outside is also over. It turned out that, facing Lu Chi, Brad was as fragile as a piece of paper. Soon, Lu Chi, who dragged Brad's muddy body into the room, attracted the attention of the 5 elders. But obviously, since Lu Chi's appearance was different after Hollow, 5 elders naturally failed to recognize that this person was the strongest CP9 in the past 800 years. Even Brad. 5 elders saw with sharp eyes that the number 10 was carved on Lu Chi's forehead. Is this the guy called Espada? Under this guy? He can even win Brad? And he is still with him. I'm afraid he should be the strongest one in Espada. Thought 5 elders secretly. They don't know much about Espada. It can only be said that they have just learned about this organization, and they don't even know who is in this organization. And being able to turn a CPO like Brad into a dead dog in such a short period of time, if this kind of strength is not the strongest among Espada, 5 elders would not believe it. Master Murphy, 620 brought you what you asked for. Lu Chi threw Brad in 5 elders' office as if he was throwing trash, and walked towards Murphy step by step. Hearing Lu Chi's words, the 5 elders' eyes all focused on Faye. Advertisement. They also want to know what important things Murphy sent Lu Chi to get. Immediately afterwards, Lu Chi handed a bottle of something similar to hairspray to Murphy's hand. And there was no hidden thought in this scene, and the 5 elders saw it openly. Hairspray. 5 elders, holding a sword, frowned. No matter how you looked at it, it was just an ordinary bottle of hairspray. Is there anything special about it?
Don't underestimate this man. That's right, I'm afraid it's just something covered with hairspray, and it might contain explosives as powerful as dynamite rocks, blowing Mariajoy away in an instant.
The blonde 5 elders spoke cautiously. Facing Murphy, an opponent with superior intelligence, 5 elders can be said to be not sloppy at all. Now is not the time to say such things. Let's get rid of these monsters here at Mariajoy first. A CPO person glanced at Marine and said very coldly. Through the simple fight in the Sabodi archipelago, they have also understood how terrifying the destructive power of these Jillians is. Xiao He, what do you think? Garp, who was standing next to He Vice Admiral, asked he with some uncertainty. It can be said that Murphy is definitely Marine's biggest contributor. Even she gets a little sentimental when things like this happen. Even being mad at Mariajoy is the same as being mad at celestial dragons. Advertisement. Time flies. Those monsters, there are so many of them. In any case, they have all come to Mariajoy, and we will soon know what the end result will be. P.S. Open black lens bracket. 1 close black lens bracket. What arrogance, to make Mariajoy look like this. She felt that it was wrong for the world government to doubt a person for no reason. Ask for flowers, ask for monthly tickets, ask for comments, ask for rewards. As the longest working with Murphy and also a representative figure of the Marine think tank, Crane's judgment is still very convincing. This is the information obtained and analyzed by their CPO, and the final confirmation is made by 5 elders. The question these people are now is to question the professionalism of their CPO. Such people, at this moment, the world government told them that Murphy did everything that happened before him. Who would believe it? Especially someone who doubts she likes it. Moreover, in their view, Marine's general staff has such a big problem, and whether Marine is trustworthy or not is a big problem. After hearing Sengoku's words, the tension between the two sides also weakened slightly.
To be honest, I can't believe this kind of thing. I wouldn't believe it until I saw it with my own eyes. Crane shook his head and said. Advertisement. There's no point in arguing now. Let's do it. What's going on will be revealed soon. Sengoku had a serious expression on his face. Seeing that Mariajoy was destroyed like this, both the CPO and Marine were very angry.
And the priority right now is really to get rid of these Jillians first. Do it. Clean up this group of black monsters, that's it. Sabo de Archipelago itself is not far from Marijoy, and the CPO who came back in Marine who was summoned to protect also arrived in Marijoy soon. Of course, Marine, who knows something inside, is not in the mood to care what Marijoy has become. Of course, in fact, this is just an ordinary hair gel, and 5 elders is just thinking too much. Obviously, because of this incident, the degree of mutual distrust between the government and Marine has widened further. Maybe in another year or two, Murphy will be the Marshal of Naval Headquarters. Seeing what was once a good place being ruined like this, heartache is unavoidable.
The Marine pillar who has always performed so perfectly can almost be said to be the core figure of the entire Marine, with great strength, brilliant records, and BCAD-wise decisions time and time again. After Murphy accepted the position of Marine General Staff, Marine's casualty rate has dropped significantly in all sea areas, and some even dropped 50% of the terrifying data.
What's more, according to common sense, Murphy and Fire Fist Ace had just met in the Whitebeard Sea area, so how could they suddenly come to Marijoy's side? I don't believe it either. Didn't Murphy say to go find that supernova spark Fist Ace? It was also mentioned in the information. How could it be possible to return to Marijoy so soon? Guion looked a little angry. Chapter 174 Spike Kill 5 Elders Previous chapter Next chapter. Advertisement Chapter 174 Instant Kill 5 Elders. Soon the sound of firefights started outside Marijoy. Have you returned? The speed is quite fast. Hearing voices from outside, Murphy said lightly, here. Now that our people have arrived, then we don't have to bear it any longer. 5 elders, who was holding a demon knife, was the first to be unable to bear it, and then an extremely alluring purple aura entangled with first-generation Goosh.
Just like a fierce eagle, it seems to be ready to hunt.
Boom! It felt as if a bird was flapping its wings in the air, and the next moment, 5 elders with a knife burst out, aiming directly at Murphy's direction and attacking with a bang. However, at this moment, a terrifying scene appeared. The moment the terrifying demon knife swung down, Murphy didn't even make any movement, and Lu Chi walked up to Murphy directly, and the terrifying demon knife directly slashed on Lu Chi's head. However, the seemingly sharp demon knife failed to pierce Lu Chi's skin. Advertisement in other words, 5 elders' knife was blocked so easily. How is it possible? There is such a thing. Holding the sword, 5 elders looked at his sword in disbelief. Are you in such a hurry? Murphy just looked at 5 elders who was stopped by Lu Chi. The expression on his face didn't change at all, as if the electricity had expected 5 elders to do so. Don't be too arrogant. Being ridiculed by Murphy, the 5 elders who held the sword suddenly became angry, his face flushed, and the purple light shining from the first-generation ghost in his hand became more intense. A smell of blood suddenly filled the office of 5 elders. Is it really the first-generation Onitsu? It has such power. Seeing the power emanating from the first-generation Onitsu, Murphy said in surprise. I have to say that the status of Onitsu's knife is quite different. Just now Lu Chi blocked his slash so easily, which made the 5 elders holding the sword very angry. But the person who uses the sword is still too weak. However, facing the angry 5 elders, Murphy commented mercilessly. Although he is not weak compared to others, but compared to Murphy's level, it is indeed not enough. What can be seen is only the power of this first-generation Goosh, not his power star. The blue halo on Murphy's body flashed, and under Ryatsu's power, the space where 5 elders with the sword began to twist crazily, twisting his body as well. Ask for flowers. To block a sword so simply, this kind of strength is simply unbelievably terrifying. Advertisement with just one breath, the 5 elders with swords completely disappeared from this world. To be honest, I couldn't believe the information from the world government until I saw this scene, Sakazuki said in a very heavy tone, as if trying his best to suppress the anger in his heart. Is there really anyone in the world who can be so powerful? Whether it was 5 elders holding the sword or others who saw this scene, they looked at Murphy with dull eyes, and opened their mouths slightly as if they wanted to say something, but they didn't know how to speak. And, Paluzalino. Then. But the commotion here had just ended when suddenly 2 figures appeared at the door of 5 elders' office. Even the first-generation Onitsu, which looks pretty good. Before 5 elders could finish speaking, Murphy's gaze shifted slightly, looking at 5 elders who was holding a sword. And the ones standing at the door were none other than 2 people that Murphy was quite familiar with. An incomparably precise Ryotsu directly enveloped every inch of the sword-wielding 5 elders, as if tens of thousands of tons of gravity had been exerted on every part of the body. Under Murphy's Ryotsu, it could even be seen the space distortion caused by Ryotsu's too strong force. However, Murphy's shock to everyone is far from over. Can Ryotsu alone do this? Seeing the 5 elders easily crushed by Murphy's Ryotsu, although Lu Qi didn't change much on the surface, his heart was already turbulent. Me too. But the facts are already in front of us. Paluzolino spread his hands and let out a long sigh. Sakazuki. Kneel down. Advertisement. Even he, when facing Murphy, can only feel a feeling as huge as the universe. Although I am very kind, I can't ignore the fact that I have repeatedly provoked me. Sitting on the sofa of 5 elders like this, with an extremely calm look, it seems that 5 elders is the same goes for the guests here. At this time, the other 4 or 5 elders were completely dumbfounded. At less than half a meter away from Murphy, time seemed to be frozen at this moment. Disappear. Loser. First generation Onitsu seemed to be firmly restrained by something. No matter how hard the 5 elders held the sword, it would be of no avail. What? Holding the sword, 5 elders' pupils dilated, and now he is unable to think about anything else. P.S. Open black lens bracket. 1 close black lens bracket. Looking at the first generation Goosh who was suddenly attacking him, Murphy didn't even have the intention to raise his hand. Both feet were trembling constantly, very quickly. The knees of 5 elders holding the sword were also completely bent, and they knelt directly in front of Murphy. Provocation. What a joke, it's you. Ask for flowers, ask for monthly tickets, ask for comments, ask for rewards. Sakazuki's eyes are full of unbelievable look and endless coldness. In the huge office, the other 5 elders didn't make the slightest sound except for the sound of breathing. I'm afraid only ancient weapon can do this, right? He was the first person on the Marine side to receive an order from the world government. Although he said he didn't believe it, he had already prepared for it. Chapter 175 from the beginning. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Chapter 175 from the beginning. But after actually seeing this scene, Paluzolino still felt quite unrealistic. He even said that he still kept a trace of expectation in his heart, hoping that this matter would turn around. For example, everything he sees with his eyes is designed by people. What? Are you surprised to see me here? Murphy looked at Paluzolino and Sakazuki, pushed the glasses frame on the bridge of his nose and said, your reactions are really slow enough. If Marine Admiral, it's just not to this extent. Marine Admiral. Looking at Murphy in front of him, Sakazuki spat out the word with difficulty. I will not allow you to mention this title again. Your existence is simply an insult to this word. Insult? Saka. 380. Ski, don't you think it's ridiculous? Murphy sneered. After all, the most famous admiral in the sea is still Murphy, and Paluzolino and Sakazuki are just rising stars. May I ask? Why do you do this kind of thing? When did the Sabodi archipelago experiment start? Paluzolino asked Murphy, his eyes fixed on Murphy. When? From the beginning. Murphy replied flatly. From the beginning? Since you became admiral? Sakazuki asked angrily. It is abhorrent to use the position of Marine Admiral to do this kind of thing. This kind of behavior undoubtedly tarnishes his ideals and justice. Advertisement. You can't understand after all that. Sakazuki. Admiral. Murphy smiled and replied. It was from the day I entered the elite camp or when I made a decision to join the Marine that day, I had already decided what to do. That is to say, so far, have all the Marines been deceived by you? You have been deceived by your carefully disguised appearance for decades. To be honest, Sakazuki felt a bit overwhelmed. A person pretended to be in the Marine for decades, and even took the position of the Admiral of Headquarters as the General Staff of the Naval Headquarters. I am afraid that in less than 2 years, Murphy will reach the top of the Naval Headquarters Marshal position, becoming a veritable leader of the Marine. How could he admit such a bizarre thing? Cheat. That's not right. To be precise, no one in Marine can really understand me, that's all. Murphy said slowly. Now all you see is the real me. And what kind of character will be the next template after unlocking Aizen? As Murphy, who inherited the power of Aizen, Ryotsu is no worse than Aizen now. Compared with the pain on the wound, what hurts Sakazuki more is the humiliation in his heart. Unexpectedly, after such a long time, his strength has been so close to Aizen's full strength during the Millennium Bloody War. Just stepped out of Five Elders' office, suddenly, a domineering Ryotsu roared out of Murphy's body. But at the same time, he also understood one thing. Ask for flowers, ask for monthly tickets, ask for comments, ask for rewards. Advertisement immediately afterwards, blood gushed out crazily, and Sakazuki's devil fruit ability also dissipated, and he fell heavily to the ground. He's also curious how far Hogyoku can make him stronger after unlocking Aizen's template. Defeat Marine Admiral Sakazuki, the template has been unlocked to 90%. It's almost time, Lucci, let's go. Ignoring Sakazuki, Pelusolino, and the 4 old stars who fell on the ground, Murphy took a look at Lucci, and walked out directly. In the next second, Sakazuki's body began to turn into lava. If that's the case, then let me clean up you marine scum. The dignified Marine Admiral was stabbed in the front, and he didn't even feel what happened. So strong, unexpectedly, after a long absence, he was defeated again, and it turned out to be exactly the same as when he was in the elite camp, and he had almost no ability to resist. The pupils dilated suddenly, and then a huge scar appeared on Sakazuki's front chest, which was the real most frontal wound. For so many years, Sakazuki has always known that Murphy is better than them. Suddenly there was behind Sakazuki, a seemingly random weapon dripping with blood. This Ryotsu feeling, Murphy, a long magma fist appeared directly, and Sakazuki's body completely turned into magma. However, no matter what, the final result will not change. Leave such a sentence. Advertisement. The real you. Is this the disgusting image? Sakazuki's tone became extremely cold, and his voice was trembling with anger. At this moment when Murphy defeated Sakazuki, the system template also sounded a long-lost notification sound. Has it been that long? 20 years. Murphy thought silently after hearing the prompt. Speaking so loudly, is it because you feel out of breath when facing me? Murphy had a slight smile on his face, as if mocking Sakazuki's recklessness. In an instant, this terrifying force swept across the entire Marijoy, and even the entire Red King continent. P.S. Open black lens bracket 2 close black lens bracket. Although it is the most basic and incomparable strength of spiritual pressure 2.2, but the difference of the user also determines the difference of the effect. Great eruption. And at this very moment, yes, the bright red and shiny appearance made people feel a trace of fear involuntarily. But to what extent, no one knows, because Murphy rarely needs to do it himself, or seriously. However, Murphy didn't seem to move at all. Looking back at Sakazuki behind me, I'm afraid that after today, Aizen's template will be completely unlocked.